are all in on the Charlie Kirk conspiracies. If the Republicans lose in the midterms, I believe that Candace Owens is wholly responsible. She is one of the biggest podcasts on the right doing everything to go to war with the organization that helped get Trump elected. Turning Point specifically was going out and registering people to vote. Without Charlie, it's in trouble.
What's going on, everybody? Today, I'm going to talk about Tim Pool's video where he blames Candace Owens, essentially. If Republicans lose midterms, which it looks like they're going to, right now, I think the odds are like 80% to 20% for Democrats. Obviously, it's because of Trump, the GOP, and just, I think, basic psychology of when someone's out of power, you're like, oh, I want them in power. And then when they're in power, you're like, oh, I want them in power. But anyway, we're going to talk about it all. And I'm going to do something interesting today, which is I chopped up that entire clip of Tim Pool blaming Candace Owens for the midterms of like 6 minutes long. And I've only seen about a minute of it. So 5 minutes of it, I'm going to react to. I chopped it up in my final cut without listening to it. So it's going to be a live, authentic reaction to what Tim Pool is saying. I'm not really sure outside of the first minute. And I'm going to tell you why, regardless of what you think of Candace or what she's doing, the midterms, if Republicans lose, it's going to be because of Republicans, and like suggesting otherwise is absolutely insane. So we're going to do that. Dream Rare Podcast starts now. Give me a thumbs up in the chat if it sounds good. Give me a thumbs up on the video for the algorithm. Thanks for being here. We're going to streamline this one and keep it pretty simple. Dream Rare Podcast starts now.
It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. Yeah.
What's going on Facebook? What's going on YouTube? What's going on Rumble? For those just joining or for those not, I have 12 clips of Tim Pool blaming Candace Owens for Republicans about to lose the midterms. I've only seen 1 or 2 of them. 10 of them I haven't. So this is going to be a live, authentic, like first time reaction to most of it. And then I'll tell you why I think Republicans are doing bad in midterms. And potentially I'll even tell you what I think about the whole Candace Turning Point thing, because I haven't fully been tuning into it over the last month. But something I find fascinating on Twitter, because I see what everyone's saying, no matter what Candace says and no matter what Candace does, it seems like the people that want to talk about her all the time are just way faker and dumber than her by far. And Tim Pool's a perfect example. I've muted him on Twitter for years because Tim is like super annoying. He like yells all the time. He talks condescendingly to everybody. And I find him to be just a midwit. I don't find Tim Pool to be likable, authentic, like impressive, honest. I don't know. He's okay. He's definitely like a 5 out of 10 or something, if I could give him a rating. But I've pretty much tuned him out. But I did see this viral clip and I found it hilarious. So just for my own entertainment, for your entertainment, I'm going to react to it. Like I said, the first 2 clips I've seen, the last 10 I haven't. So it should be fun to do like a wonder what he's going to say sort of reaction. First 2 I've seen. Let's play the first one again, and we'll just do a play-by-play. Thanks for being here.
It's Hugh. He says, Tim, I work in construction and experience the same thing. My coworkers are all in on the Charlie Kirk conspiracies. If the Republicans lose in the midterms, I believe that Candace Owens is wholly responsible. She is one of the biggest podcasts on the right doing everything to go to war with the organization that helped get Trump elected. Turning Point specifically was going out and registering people to vote. Without Charlie, it's in trouble.
All right, so I want to play the second clip in a second, but let me just say this. When it comes to why Trump is polling so terribly, it's not just Candace Owens and Turning Point or like that has so much to do with it. If you listen to any of the podcasts that helped get Trump elected, podcasts like Joe Rogan, Andrew Schultz, Theo Vaughn, more people that are on the fence than Candace Owens, like people that kind of have an audience on both sides. They have a pretty, I'm not going to say they're normies per se, but it's like they're definitely not as conservative or right-wing as Candace. These are the podcasts that really were pro-Trump. And I think in order for Trump to win this election so hugely, so bigly, it was a big, beautiful bill, big, beautiful election. It was huge. It was the hugest since George Washington beat up the British, okay? Golden Ballroom, make a tiny car for the poor people. Anyway, that's an inside joke for those who know. Trump was like, we got to build smaller cars. I'm green lighting smaller cars being built in America. Oh, thank you, Trump. I need a really tiny car to fit in my tiny house that has a century-long usury loan on it. Thank you so much, Trump. But jokes aside, I think Trump didn't just win the election because of his like mega supporters. I think he won the election because of RFK, because of the Joe Rogan types, the independents, the libertarians, the moderates, the people that are tired of the Democratic Party. And without Candace Owens saying anything, without Candace even being a part of this equation, all of those people already don't like Trump. They're disillusioned with him over the Epstein files. Some of them don't mind what he's doing with the border security. Like I like that he closed the border. I just find it weird that even as somebody that's very hawkish on immigration and border, like I'm even taken back by just like their social media. It's like they have some 19-year-old annoying like intern posting like Pokemon memes every day. Like, it's just kind of like embarrassing. It's like, do your job, deport people and fix immigration. Trump is like green lighting H-1B visas while he just like he just seems like an agent of chaos to me. He's not doing that much, but he has the appearance like he's doing the most, which is the worst thing to do. The best thing to do would be do it and just like not be weird about it. But he's like not doing that much, but being really weird about it. So on every topic, he's just losing a lot of people. And, before I play the second clip, sorry that this is long winded, but I've been thinking about this for a while. Both parties print trillions of dollars. Both parties work for the donors. Both parties are corrupt. And Trump is not that much different as much as people want to think. But when Trump's out of power, people just assume that he's going to be different. Listen, I'm not the one to argue with you and be like, why would you vote? If you voted, cool. If you didn't vote, cool. But I understand why people would vote for Trump over Kamala. It's obvious. Kamala and Biden are dingbats. They don't even try to appeal to us, right? But then it's like you have so many people that believe Trump's Iron Man just because he's out of power. But it's like Trump's responsible for the inflation. Trump printed the money, and then Biden printed. They're both in on it. So when Trump's in office and the economy's bad and the country looks like crap, people start to assume like, maybe like a Democrat would fix this. And then when a Democrat makes it worse, people are like, maybe like a Republican will fix it. And then Trump gets in office and now people realize he's not Batman versus Iron Man. He's Bill Gates, Epstein, buddy, Mr. Operation Warp Speed, print a bunch of money, start wars, and saying he's like doing peace. He is doing some peace deals, but you get what I'm saying? Like he's not who people thought he was. So now that people who they thought Trump was is not who he is, there's a psychological thing that goes on where like someone like myself, I'm almost definitely not going to vote in midterms. Like the Republican Party, I knew they were annoying, but now Marjorie Taylor Greene's leaving. Trump's crying about Thomas Massie and Rand Paul. I'm not inspired to go vote. Democrats are inspired to go vote because now Trump's in office and they're more inspired to vote against Trump than most people that voted for Trump 2 or 3 times are inspired to vote for him. And that's because of Trump's actions, the GOP's actions, and their failure to really impress their base. But people need to realize while Trump is doing some things for his base, Trump and the GOP took over $500 million from the Adelson family. Trump said that he thinks they care about Israel more than America or like Israel more than America. And Trump said that they were in the White House more than almost anyone, always asking for things for Israel. So isn't that a little weird that he takes $500 million from people that he thinks have dual loyalty? And then Trump and the Democrats, they're all passing these anti-Semitism bills that would classify you as an anti-Semite for saying the truth about what I just said. And it's not just Trump, by the way, it's Democrats. But I'm just saying as well, it's just the psychological thing of like, now that Trump's in office, now the economy's not booming. Now he's really not doing that much. Now he's flopping on the Epstein files and stuff like that. Now people are like, I don't want to, like, they're not going to rush to the polls like they did in 2024 to vote for Trump. They're probably going to sit home, and it's going to be the blue-haired liberals and the people who watch CNN who are like, I'm going to go vote against Trump. So there's a psychological thing that has nothing to do with Candace Owens or the turning point thing. When Trump's out of power and people see how bad Biden is, they want to go vote for Trump. When Trump's in power and people see that he's really not what everyone thinks he is, they're not inspired to vote for him like they were when Joe Biden is telling everyone they're going to die if they don't get the vaccine and that they need to wear pharmaceutical masks. So it goes back and forth like a ping pong ball, which is why whether you vote or don't vote, people need to realize that they need to see through the two-party, ping pong game, or else it's just going to go back and forth forever. So I'm going to listen to more of this because I'm sure Tim makes some good point in here. I would hope so. With all that brain inside that beanie, you would think he'd make a single point. But his first point, that Candace Owens is wholly responsible for the midterms if Donald Trump wins, not Donald Trump, not his administration, not his actions, not his failures to do certain things, not, the fact that he's attacking Rand Paul, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Thomas Massie. Trump won the election because of independents who liked RFK and Tulsi Gabbard. And, he had the perfect mandate to bring the two parties together and just crush to the point where like every normal left winger and right winger would want to vote for him for the next 20 years. But he's not doing that. So now people are like myself are not inspired to vote for him, and the other side is inspired to vote for him. All I'm trying to say is, has nothing to do with Candace Owens. You could say a lot about Candace. I'll say some stuff later because I'm sure people are going to ask, but I'm just going to stick to the premise of this video right now. And it's like, what a stupid talking point that Candace Owens is wholly responsible if Republicans lose the midterms, not Trump, not Republican. Republicans aren't responsible. This is why Republicans keep getting away with it. And this is why pseudo intellectuals like Tim Pool are almost just as bad as liberals, because they're just like gatekeeper retards who just say the dumbest things all the time, brainwash Republican voters and listeners. And then they're like, yeah, it's not Trump's fault or Mike Johnson's fault or the GOP's. It's the left's fault. It's Candace's fault. It's like, when are we going to talk about the fact that the GOP and Trump are controlled by donors? Why do they never talk about this? Why does Tim Pool get so nervous when one of his guests brings up Israeli influence? Why does he like bug out? He's like, oh, you have Israel derangement syndrome. No, you have beanie derangement syndrome, you little gremlin. You're so dishonest. You're so fake. Whatever. Let's play the next clip.
Turning Point needs to be able to go out and rally young people and register them to vote. And she's doing everything she can to destroy that. And that is going to, I suppose, it's going to rip out the coffers on the right. There is no organization like Turning Point that exists anywhere else that has the resources and the reach. And without Charlie, I'm not sure that they can make it. But I can tell you this, Candace lighting a Molotov and throwing it through the window is not helping. And it's the most demoralizing thing ever.
See, here's my thing. I'm going to try to be as honest and fair as I can be without bias. If Tim just said, Candace attacking Turning Point is bad for Republicans long term because, Turning Point does a lot of stuff with the youth. Okay, that's a valid perspective. I don't know that I 100% agree with it, but that makes a little more sense. Like I said, I haven't seen most of this video, so this is a live reaction. That would make more sense than just starting it with Candace is wholly responsible for Republicans losing. No, she's not. And I can't, like I said, I can't really fully speak on everything she's doing between Turning Point and all that because I haven't really been paying attention outside of X, and I don't care to get involved in people's personal drama, and they want her to debate, but she doesn't want to show up, but they invited her to Phoenix, and for some reason they don't want to live stream it, which in my opinion, they should probably just live stream the debate. Like, why does she have to go to Phoenix and sit with you? I don't know. Like, she doesn't really trust you. So can't you just live stream it? But anyway, that to Tim's credit, even though I think he's a beanie gremlin, it's like, I get that more than blaming her for the entire midterms. That's retarded. So, Turning Point also, whether Charlie's there or not, from somebody needs to get some sort of there needs to be some sort of dialogue there. Like, I criticized Turning Point in 2019, 2020, 2021 because they wouldn't talk about the Israeli speech laws as they just shilled for Israel, and I thought it was anti-American, and I thought they didn't challenge Trump enough when he was doing socialism, and their tagline is socialism sucks. So that's the thing about like the Tim Pools of the world. It's like, if you don't like the way Candace is doing it, what are you doing? Like, why are you blaming her for the midterms? Can you criticize Turning Point in a way that makes sense, sort of, or no? You're just gonna, I don't know. It's like, it creates this arena of chaos, and then everybody's just picking sides. And I'm kind of just sitting there looking at it like, I guess I get what you're saying, but no, she's not responsible for Republicans losing the midterms, I guess. Let's listen to the next clip. All of these I haven't seen.
Additionally, all of the fucking cowards on the right who are too scared to say anything about her because she tweets at me talking shit or whatever, and then a bunch of people come and flood our chat. I could give a single flying fuck. You can come and you can burn everything I have to the ground, and I will happily live in a van down by the river. I don't care to be number one. I don't need to be number one. What I care about is what is true and what will help this country and what works. And she is a fucking scumbag.
All right, Tim, speaking of cowards, right? Tim Pool, I was supposed to be on the show, by the way. I'm not going to get into all that because they left me high and dry. I flew in to see them, and they did like the scummiest, weirdest things. I'm personally convinced that they didn't want to talk to me that day because they didn't want me to bring up what I'm about to bring up now, because Tim has been skating around this topic like a coward. Speaking of cowards, Tim and his little beanie bunker, they never talk about something, and that is who controls the GOP, who's donating to Trump, who Trump works for, Who is the GOP passing speech laws for? Why does Tim Pool never talk about it? How come when Tim Pool's guests bring it up, he cries and he tries to switch topics and say they have Israeli derangement syndrome? So it's just hilarious. Like, maybe definitely the wrong messenger here, where it's like, when it comes to Candace versus people that are like constantly crying about her, it's like the people that are crying about her are always faker and dumber. I just find it like hilarious as somebody that's kind of just watching from afar, because I don't want to get involved in the drama. I don't agree with what everybody's saying. I don't want to pick a side because I do my own thing. I don't need someone else to think for me and act for me. I do like Tim. It's like Tim calling Candace a coward. Like, Tim is not a coward. Like Tim is this warrior freedom fighter who just will say the truth. No, Tim is such a retard shill. And he's been such a like half-baked gatekeeper for the last 7 years. He just started talking about certain topics now that I know for a fact he knew about 6 years ago. Tim is not like some brave warrior of like truth. So for him to call Candace a coward is hilarious. Everyone knows that there's one topic that if you bring it up on Tim's podcast, he spirals and starts flopping like a fish and just starts spurging out and putting out like generic Newsmax talking points, Fox News talking points. So it's like, oh yeah, all the right wingers are the coward, Tim Pool, not you, who left me high and dry in Washington or whatever when I went to go on your podcast. And I personally think he knew I would have humiliated him. He knew that he couldn't talk down to me. You know, I'm a nice guy, but it's like Tim talks condescendingly to everybody on his podcast. I don't play that. You know what I'm saying? I'm exactly who I seem like I am. Go watch my interview with Vivek. Everybody talks a big game. They get in front of anybody. They don't say anything. I say exactly what I say now there. So I feel like they purposely sabotaged it. Maybe they didn't. Maybe it's this spontaneous coincidence that happened. I flew into Tim Pool, and his booker at the time was like, this never has happened before. I've never booked a flight this close. I guess I don't know why it happened. I don't know why either. If you've booked hundreds of people, but you only did something like you cut it really close with me and I still could have made it, but then you cut me off and left me at the, like, yeah, I wonder why that happened. I mean, I don't know. You know, like, you ask yourself why you booked my flight differently than 100 other people who've been on the show. But it's like Tim Pool is such a coward, yet he's trying to convince his audience that, you know, the real cowards are the ones who won't call out Candace Owens. To be honest, I don't agree with everything that Candace is saying. You know, that's why I don't really talk about it that much. She's doing her own thing. Time will tell what she's doing or how it comes out or if she really knows stuff. But, you know, at the same time, if I'm going to talk about it, I'm going to be accurate. I'm not going to cry and blame her for the midterm elections. And also, I'm not going to make claims like the same way people could say like, oh, Candace is making claims that she doesn't know. Well, you're also making claims that she doesn't. Like, you know, I don't know. I feel like patience is the smart thing to do with Candace for me personally, because if she would have said like 6 weeks ago, like, oh, there's text of Charlie saying he's going to leave the pro-Israel cause, I'm not going to say I wouldn't believe her, but it's like I would want to see proof. And there was proof of that. So it's like, what's the point? I don't take myself so seriously that I think my opinion matters. My opinion doesn't matter. The truth matters. So with all of this stuff that it's so moving fast, it's like, let's see. You know what I'm saying? Time will tell if she has everything she says she has. And you know, those texts were to me a massive bombshell, and those were true. So as far as everything else, I don't know, but to blame her for the midterm elections and to call her a coward, like Tim is braver than Candace Owens. Oh yeah, Tim is so brave. Dude, bring up the fact that Trump and the GOP are bankrolled by dual loyalty donors that Trump knows have dual loyalty. And then the entire Congress, like Eric Adams right now apparently is in New Orleans at an anti-Semitism conference, passing some sort of weird executive order for anti-Semitism in a different state. He's kissing, like he's doing more for Israel than New York City on his way out of office. Isn't it weird, Tim Pool, that like 90-something% of Congress seems to work for a foreign nation? And then you get called anti-Semitic when you talk about it. And when your guests bring it up, you spurg out and say it's Israeli derangement syndrome. Isn't that weird, Tim Pool? Do you notice that or no? Or you're so brave that you just can't talk about? Come on, bro. Everybody, either you don't want to talk, like you're not brave, and everybody else is not a coward. You're a beanie gremlin.
Okay, and she's getting worse every day. And she crossed the line. She continually crosses the line every day, insinuating that Turning Point literally killed the guy who made them all rich. And I hear this in the streets, and at a certain point, I'm like, holy shit, we're going to lose the midterms. We're going to lose the midterms. Then we're going to lose in 2028. And it's because she's a piece of shit. Because instead of saying, guys, let's come together and figure out how to work together,
Sorry, I was stretching. My head looked hella weird when I came on. So I got a little like muscle pull there. But anyway, I was like, eh? With the turning point thing, did Candace actually say that? Because like I said, I haven't watched for a month, but when I was watching like a month ago, every time somebody said she said something, it was always like something she never said. In the past month, I've seen clips. She's definitely like insinuating a lot and like putting breadcrumbs and being like, he was betrayed, which, like I said, it's like, that's everybody. I'm trying to say this the right way because I'm not trying to be rude or disrespectful, but I'm responsible for what I say and what I think. And I feel the best and I feel like I'm serving my nation and serving God. And I'm not trying to be holier than thou, but I really feel good when I'm completely accurate. And I try to treat others the way I want to be treated. So I don't push accusations against somebody unless I'm 100% sure, because I wouldn't want someone to do that to me. And I do believe that what comes around goes around in a sense, and everybody is responsible for the words, And if you're a Christian, the Bible talks about how important and powerful words are and what you're saying. So I try to just, focus on myself and what I can control. With Candace, I don't know what she's doing or why she's inspired to do it or what she's saying or why she's saying, and she's kind of like, so it's not really, I don't know. It's not what I'm doing. It's not what I'm inspired to do. So if you want to say that she's doing too much for that, that's your opinion. You're allowed to have that opinion. But if you're saying she's going to lose the midterms for Republicans, it's just stupid. Like, if you look at the polling right now, I guarantee Candace is responsible for less than 1% of people switching. I guarantee you 90 something percent has to do with the fact that Trump was out of office. He seemed like a hero. He got shot, allegedly. He almost got killed. Alvin Bragg arrest. He's acting like he's going to stop Joe Biden. So it's this hero Iron Man tale of like, oh my gosh, Joe Biden gets in office. He's doing all sorts of weirdo stuff. He's losing normal people. He's losing Tim Dillon. He's losing Andrew Schultz. He's losing the Theo Vaughns and the Joe Rogans of the world. And those are the people that contributed to the landslide election. Yes, Trump loyalists as well, of course, but you can't win an election with cat turd. You need to win an election with the Joe Rogans and stuff and the RFK Juniors and the health people. And as somebody that voted for Trump and had pretty much no to low expectations, because I already knew Trump was a sellout, I just slightly prefer him in the GOP to the Democrats. I'm underwhelmed by RFK. I'm underwhelmed by Trump. Like, it's like I had no expectations and somehow they went under that. So if you're losing me and people like that, you're losing everybody. It has nothing to do with what Candace is saying. Candace talking about turning point didn't factor into my thought process whatsoever in whether I decide to vote in the midterms. And I guarantee if you ask Joe Rogan or if you asked Andrew Schultz, they've been like turning on Trump months ago over what Trump did when Candace wasn't even saying anything. So it's like most people, if they're not going to vote for Trump and they're going to sit the election out and let the Democrats win the election, it's not going to be because they watched Candace Owens doing a Charlie Kirk scavenger hunt. Like it's just not true. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's the weird part about the people that don't like Candace. Like, they just can't be honest. I find it fascinating. No matter what Candace says or does, she's like a mythical dragon where like, I think there could be a way to like disagree with her, but for somehow like everybody who hates her just can't make any sense. Like, they just spurg out. They start cursing like Tim Pool. They start like saying she's going to lose the election. She said this when she never said that. It's like Candace is really showcasing how all of the people that are like normie Republicans like Tim Pools or Zionists or neocons, like these people just can't be honest. I don't know. Like, why can't you say Candace is doing too much without saying she's going to lose the midterms? That would actually make a little more sense. You know what I'm saying? But if the entire premise of your Candace 5-minute spurg out is she's blowing the midterms for Republicans, it's just like, I just find it fascinating that they just can't tell the truth. It's like Trump. I've said this for months, but it's like Trump with liberals. Trump does something, liberals spurg out. And it's like, it's just fascinating to watch from afar. It's like, why can't these people just tell the truth about the guy? There's a lot of things I don't like about Trump, but somehow Democrats can't ever say them. And then anytime they actually disagree with Trump, it's like hypocritical because they would do it themselves. They're acting like they care about tariffs, but they never say anything about income tax. I don't believe in the tariffs, but I also think a lot of taxes are a scam. But how could you be against tariffs, but you want to, tax people 40, 50%, and also you were okay with vaccine mandates and mask mandates? But it's like, it's fascinating to me. But Candace's opposition just can't seem to be honest about anything. Like, no matter what she says or does, they always find a way to say something faker, stupider, and just like way more wrong, which is why she's so popular. It's like when Democrats are like, why did Trump win the election? Because you ran Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and you think biologically born men should be able to beat the crap out of women in volleyball. Like, yeah, that's going to lead people to the right. Why is Candace's show getting so many views? What else is out there? I mean, definitely there's an element of drama and like murder mystery, and people love murder mysteries and drama. But also, it's like, if you ask me, like, Anomaly, who would you rather watch tonight? Greg Gutfeld, Tim Pool, Ben Shapiro, Mark Levin, or Candace, I'll be like, let's watch Candace. I'm not like what everybody who hates her is like an idiot. Like, why would I watch that? At least something's going to be interesting with her. So all the people spurging out at her it's just so funny to see that they're like, they just can't beat her and they can't tell the truth. It's fascinating. Let's keep listening.
She says the stupidest, retarded crap, and now everybody's running around divided and broken. For what reason?
Yeah, Tim. Before it's definitely not the fact that Trump ran on the premise of stopping wars, hasn't stopped a lot of the wars, funds them. I mean, he's like stopping ones in Congo that nobody cares about. It's not the fact that he ran on being disclosure for the Epstein files but won't do it. It's not the fact that he claimed he was going to fix the economy. Now he's gaslighting everybody saying there is no affordability issue. It's a Democrat hoax. It's not the fact that he's doing 100-year usury loans or his entire administration's bending over backwards for anti-Semitism. That's not why everyone's divided, Tim Pool, right? It's just Candace Owens' podcast that she's talking about Charlie Kirk too much. I'm sorry, but the party's been divided long before that. If Candace didn't ever talk about Charlie and was just like a normie, it would be equally as divided. Mark Levin's, Lindsey Graham's, Ted Cruz's, they're beefing with Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes. And even if Nick wasn't there, they'd still be treating Tucker Carlson like Nick Fuentes. So this premise of like Candace is dividing the party, if Candace never said a word and Nick Fuentes never said a word, they would still be doing the same exact things. And the Mark Levins are trying to oust anybody that isn't like Israel first, like the Marjorie Taylor Greenes, the Thomas Masseys, the Rand Pauls, like these type of people. There is no world that Tim exists like, oh, without Candace doing this podcast, we're all united. No, we're not, Tim. Nobody's united. Okay. Nobody was going to be united if Candace never talked about Charlie. It's just not true. Why is his analysis so stupid? You know what I'm saying? It's not true. She never says a word about Charlie. She sounds like you. The party's equally as divided right now over the same exact topic because it's just the reality. The GOP takes hundreds of millions of dollars from dual loyalty donors. The GOP sucks up hundreds of millions of dollars from corporations. The GOP are socialists at this point. They print money. They hand money to foreign countries. They're absorbing companies like communists. The GOP is not free market. They're not even conservative. If you brought back the founding fathers or even your ancestors from 100 years ago, your founding fathers would look at Trump and the GOP and be like, they're literally shit-lib communist traitors who are working for a foreign country. And then Trump has the nerve to call Marjorie Taylor Greene a traitor because she won't sell out to Israel and she won't sign all his stupid socialist spending bills. So this idea that, oh, without Candace, it's just so united. No, it's not, Tim, because 95% of the GOP sold out. Trump is a puppet for the donors. And people are not as fake and stupid as you. They don't want to ignore it for clout and money for the next 10 years. They want to address it head on because we have no chance if we just make fun of the libtards and win elections. It doesn't matter. Trump won in 2016. We still got locked down. Trump has the House, the Senate, the presidency right now, and they're not really doing anything. Everything they want to do is fund Ukraine, fund Israel, and start a war in Venezuela that has nothing to do with drug boats or fentanyl and has everything to do with China, Russia, Iran, and oil. It's just another neocon Zionist war in the long list of the wars that they've been planning for 12 years. I'm not saying I like narco terrorists. I don't like drug dealers. I don't like drug dealers in boats. I don't like drug dealers pushing fentanyl against the border. I don't like the fact that Trump's doing deals with Pfizer and brags about sending billions of vaccines all over the world. But at the same time, I'm not so stupid that I think that Trump's fighting Venezuela over a little drug boat. It's over Russia, China, Iran, and the liberal gay world order neocon agenda. That's the same reason they invaded Syria. That's the same reason that they're fighting Russia and Ukraine. They're all connected. So it's like Trump. Tim Pool is such a little weasel that he's like, oh yeah, Candace is the reason we're all. We would have been this divided anyway, and it's Trump and the GOP's fault. And anybody, like, if you're gonna throw Candace in that category, I think it's a hard sell, because there's two different topics at this point, like between the neocon Zionist agenda and the donors and Trump versus like the America First people that realizes it's totally fake. And then the turning point thing. Like, these are two separate topics. It's just that Candace is she's so popular that she almost like becomes the topic, you know? Like, I posted that Charlie wanted to stop a war with Iran because that's, you know, multiple people said he went to the White House to lobby against war with Iran. I posted on Facebook and people go, oh, that's a Candace Owens conspiracy. It's like, she's become so big. She is like the entire, sorry about this phrasing, I'll switch it. She's become like the whole topic. And I'm like, Charlie wanting to stop the war in Iran has nothing to do. I mean, maybe it had something to do with Candace if they talked, but it has nothing to do with what Candace is saying now. It's like a literal fact. So now it's becoming like left versus right, Candace versus the turning point and the conspiracy. It's like nobody can think. Nobody has critical thinking skills to be like, no, this is literally true. Regardless of what you think of what Candace is saying, that is what Charlie did. You know, I post videos of Charlie getting called an anti-Semite, and then people call me an anti-Semite. And I'm like, that's a video that Charlie was getting text messages being called an anti-Semite. And they're like, he wasn't an anti-Semite. I know. That's why I posted the video of how crazy that the Israel Zionist lobby is, because even though Charlie was pro-Israel and was doing their bidding, they still called him an anti-Semite. And he said he was being morally blackmailed in order to get him to go further. Has nothing to do with me or Candace or I'm not even talking about his assassination. I'm just like, when he was alive, he was getting called an anti-Semite. Well, you're an anti-Semite for posting that. And then people like Tim Pool are shocked that the other side of this conversation is growing in numbers. It's because when you play, no matter what Candace said or did, people like Tim Pool are faker and stupider. So if you want to beat Candace Owens, stop being so fake and stupid. Say something that makes sense. For some reason, 99% of the time, I just don't see it. And I find it fascinating that these people just can't tell the truth. Even if Candace never said anything, we were divided. Republicans are probably going to lose the midterm. And it's not like Mark Levin would stop yelling at Tucker Carlson if Candace Owens stopped talking about Charlie Kirk. This divide was always going to happen. And I've seen it for 6 years. And I went to go fly to be on Tim Pool's podcast to talk about it. But mysteriously, you know, they just couldn't let me in, and they don't know what happened, and they don't know why they booked it so close, blah, blah, blah. Okay, sure. Sure, Tim.
She says the stupidest, retarded crap. And now everybody's running around divided and broken. For what reason? For literally what reason? Now, guess what? I'm not on the best of terms with Turning Point either. In case you didn't remember, they didn't invite us this year, and it's become a big thing or whatever. I have nothing. I can say I know what they are. I know what they do, and I'm glad they do it. And if we don't get along, so be it. I don't know that they make it without Charlie, whatever.
Well, let me just defend Turning Point real quick, because the reason that Tim Pool didn't get an invite this year, it's not because of, you know, he's being so critical of them. It's because they have a no beanie policy. They want people to take their hats off and be respectful when they go inside, not, you know, show up to the White House in a beanie and like a sweatshirt or whatever. Tim wears like a beanie with a suit. It's just so disrespectful. At that point, you might as well wear a backpack and clown shoes. But in general, it's like, all right, you didn't get invited to Turning Point because you're such a truther or something, but now you're mad at her for saying that. I get it. Let's keep it moving. That wasn't the most exciting clip.
But what is the purpose of intentionally fanning the flames for 3 endless months of just nonstop retard shit, Candace? Holy crap. You know, initially in the beginning, she brought up some interesting things. New photos had emerged, and I said, wow, I even said this to Andrew Colvett at Turning Point at the beginning of October. Now she's at the point where it is video after video where she's saying it's an inside job. She's saying like, there's a video of the dude, Mikey McCoy, grabbing his phone and making a phone call, and she's acting like that's weird.
I mean, if Tim's whole rant would have been about that stuff, I just think it would have been a different ball game. Like, why are you saying she's losing the election? You know, because I like I said, I don't know. So this is where I want to be really careful. I don't know what Candace knows or what she's going for. And I personally would be very careful about what I said about who, because that's just how I operate, right? I don't want to I don't like to be really loose with everything I'm saying. And, that's just not my style. My style is very tight. I try to be very accurate, and I'm trying to, I try to treat others the way I want to be treated, because I've seen people lie about me, make false accusations about me, freeze a video and say I was making a hand signal. Like, I've seen every theory about myself, and I'm sure everyone has in this space. So it's like, I just out of moral compass, it's like, I like to be very clear about what I'm saying. With Candace, and, she's kind of being like saying a lot of stuff about a lot of people. That's on her. Like, only she knows why she's doing it. Only she knows what she has, like, that she thinks. And to be honest, it's like, I guess a lot of the people that she's like saying stuff about, I don't trust. Like, all the people, like, it's like, I don't know that I would say exactly what she said and how she said it, because I'm not her, and we have different styles. But most of the people I would say that she's, calling out are just people that I just profoundly know are very untrustworthy. But I don't need to say anything else about them besides that until I, like, I'm not going to make up some other claim just because I don't like them. But it's like, I'm more just like, they're lying every time she says something. She's being very loose with what she's saying about them. And I'm just watching from the sidelines, because it's like, let's see, time will tell all. And we'll see who really knows what and who's really doing what. That's just my personal take on it. With Tim Pool, he's saying that she's saying a bunch of retarded stuff. Tim Pool's entire podcast is retarded. Like, I've never watched his podcast. I've never thought he was smart. I've never thought he was insightful. I don't think I've ever seen a clip of him saying anything that actually really mattered that much. He's always 8 months late on everything. He's always like pushing like basic Republican narratives. Like, it's like, if you are like, smart enough to realize that Fox News and Newsmax are propaganda, then you watch Tim Pool. It's usually like the same message completely regurgitated. Like, I find him so uninteresting, so inauthentic, so rude, so condescending. He's like a midwit who talks down to everybody. That's why I was so excited to be on his podcast. I was like, there's no way I'm going to let like Tim Pool talk to me like I'm a 5-year-old when he's like half as smart as me. But, that never happened. You could ask Tim what happened and whatever. But anyway, it's like, I don't know, Tim Pool acting like his podcast is the bastion of like intellect and, sane conversations. His podcast is basic, very mind numbing, very stupid. And anytime he has a really smart guest on who says something that he won't say, he basically like spurgs out and just like yells at them. I forget the one guy that was talking about like Israeli influence in America, and he was like literally freaking out and screaming at the guy. Like, it's like, relax, Tim. Your audience has a right to learn the truth about what's going on with the GOP in America for 5 minutes. You rot their brains every time you talk. And then for 5 minutes, they get the truth, and you like spurg out and yell at your guests whenever they say something honest. It's like, who cares what this guy thinks about Candace's podcast? You know what I'm saying? It would be like Chris Cuomo being like, Candace's podcast sucks. You suck too, bro. Yeah, I don't know. You suck way worse than her for sure. Like, not even close. Like, she's done way more interesting stuff, way more important stuff, way more brave and, high integrity stuff. Like, where's your documentary about childhood vaccines? Where, like, what are you doing? He's probably selling them, I don't know for sure, but I highly doubt that family is like, looking into that to the big pharma industry. So I don't know. Tim calling someone else retarded. Tim has like the dumbest, most normie, mind numbing, mind rotting podcast ever. And anytime he has a guest telling the truth, he spurgs out like it's like the Truman Show or something. And he has to press a button to like put the weather on to make sure that people can't like see through it. So Tim is an idiot.
And then you get this other guy who's claiming that the business is a parking lot. Well, he full well knows businesses can be registered anywhere. To be fair, it's not only just Candace and saying what she's saying. It is all of these people who are like piranhas ripping the right to shreds. And you know what? A lot of cowards on the right being unwilling to say anything about it. Well, this is where we go. The Democrats are trying to find a way.
First of all, Tim, you're a coward. Second of all, I get what he's saying, to be fair, because like I said, I don't agree with how everyone else does everything, but I do it my way. if you see an anomaly video and an anomaly investigation, I'm being 100% factual. I'm being thoughtful. I'm being very clear. Some people are not clear. They're kind of all like, that's kind of why I tuned out a little bit, because it was getting a little too sloppy for me, and I'd rather just watch from afar than be a part of it personally. So I get what he's saying, but at the same time, it's like, you're a coward, Tim. I slightly agree with you that some people are doing too much, but at the same time, some people are not doing enough, and people are lying on the other side too. So you can call people a coward for saying that people on Candace's side are doing too much, but people on the other side have been doing way too much and way more than her for 6 years, and they've been lying and making sure that our party stays fake opposition. So, like, morally, am I more mad at her for doing something I disagree with than them? No, I feel like it's a clown show at this point, and the other side that is attacking her is way worse, way faker, and they just do what liberals do. They just like fake the moral high ground while they're doing more egregious stuff than she's even doing. So it's like, I like, for example, she's being a little bit loose with certain things and certain people that she thinks are being suspicious. I got blacklisted 6 years ago by people that just were calling me an anti-Semite and far right because I talked about Israeli influence. Like, nobody stood up for me. Nobody said anything for me. Nobody had my back. I don't care. I'm just saying, it's like, just because they did it covertly behind the scenes doesn't make them more moral than Candace Owens, who does it on her podcast publicly for everybody to see and criticize. So it's like, it's like this passive aggressive, snarky douchiness where it's like, I'm better than her. It's like, no, all the people that are mad at her, 99% of them are worse than her. So it's like, why? Okay, you talk about them too, and then I'll talk about what she's doing. You won't? Then who cares what you think? And then he's talking about it dividing the right. Tim, once again, the right has been divided because Trump is not who he said he was. Our party is being essentially controlled by a donor class that doesn't have our interests. The GOP is like 95% sold out. The only decent people in the GOP are Marjorie Taylor Greene, Rand Paul, and Thomas Massie. Marjorie's leaving because Trump called her a traitor and she doesn't want to be in politics anymore. Rand Paul, Trump constantly maligns for not voting for socialist spending bills and stupid taxes. And then Thomas Massie is like the most authentic person we have, and Trump's trying to kick him out with his Israeli donors in order to get some plant in there. So we're going to be divided regardless of what Candace says. Like, she's playing a role in the big equation of conversation because she's the biggest podcast and she's the only one that wants to talk about the Charlie Kirk thing every day. Okay. But is like, stop acting, Tim Pool. Like, without Candace, we're just this united thing and she's the one dividing us. She's not the one dividing us. She's just another person, just stirring up the pot up a little bit and adding a little bit of flavor to it. I'm not saying like we all play a role in it, but 100% chance that we would absolutely be divided without Candace. And it's over the topic that Tim Pool never wants to talk about. So it's like, who's the coward, Tim Pool? You play stupid for 6 years over the thing that's dividing the right. And to be honest, we should be divided, because if we're being controlled by people who don't do anything, there's no way to vote our way out of it. That's why I talk about Republicans more than Democrats. Democrats are not going to serve us, Tim Pool, but Republicans are supposed to. If Republicans don't, we have no chance. So we should use our leverage to challenge Republicans, or else we have no chance. All these stupid fake opposition neocon / Zionist type podcasts that always just the left. I think they're worse than the left, because the left is so bad. Everybody smart knows that the left is not for them, but all of these people never challenge our own side, and then we have no chance. So it's like, what's the point of talking about the left all the time? If you went to your ancestors 100 years ago and showed them Trump, they would think he's a socialist, communist, foreign sellout who's printing a bunch of money and making your grandkids poor. Like, so it's like, you're a coward. You never talk about this stuff, very rarely, and your opinions suck. So
back to reality. And then you get this other guy who's claiming...
sorry about that. Let me see.
Back to reality. They published this thing where they said, oh, we've got to, it's called Deciding to Win. And they said, we have to address kitchen table issues. Like hell, I would ever vote for someone like Elizabeth Warren or Gavin Newsom. But what I think is likely to start occurring now is the grifter right is cannibalizing itself. You are going to see the right now move from a populist base more to a neocon base. Democrats are going to go to war internally over the far left, and you'll see the emergence now of these deciding to win types, which...
Tim Pool talking about the grifter class. If you look up grifter in the dictionary, you might see a pool of Tim Pool with a beanie on in the White House. Take your beanie off when you go to the White House, Tim Pool. Wear a suit, wear a wig or something, bro. Just put a wig on. That would look better than a beanie with a suit. It's pathetic, but it's like disgusting, dude. I'd rather a Democrat get in than see Tim Pool with a wig on. I mean, Tim Pool with a beanie on. I'm just kidding, but it's like what is he even talking about? I don't want to vote for Elizabeth Warren. Yeah, nobody does. But the grifter class really going to divide us. Tim, once again, this is the divide in the GOP. We have people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massey, and others because they serve America, not Israel, and they vote against socialist communist spending bills while Trump and Mike Johnson are running up the deficit, so much so that Elon ran out of government and said that Trump was on the Epstein files before probably being forced to apologize and shutting up. Now Elon is like a robot, maybe literally or unliterally, who knows, but with his companies. But it's like that's the divide in the future. Either the neocon Zionist Republicans, they allow America First candidates to get through, or they completely sacrifice the GOP for their donors, do whatever they can for foreign nations while they're in office and corporations, and then lose the election and then just get back in 8 years when people are tired of Democrats. I don't think they mind doing that. So it's like the issue, once again, is not the grifter. Well, it is the grifter class of podcasters, but the truest and most like, even if you don't like what Candace is doing, even if you think she's a grifter, even if you think she's milking it or doing too many accusations, and that's what you believe, is she worse than neocon Zionist podcasters who suck off Trump for 6 years, never do any real reporting whatsoever, constantly just talk about the left, never tell you the truth, say they're against socialism, but won't call out Trump, say they're against foreign lobbying, but won't mention that the GOP is almost completely lobbied, won't stand up for the Marjorie Taylor Greenes and Thomas Masseys and let the Mark Levins just run over our entire party? Like that, yeah, that's way better than Candace. It's like even on Candace Owens' worst day, she's better than these idiots. You know, that like that's the grifter class, the other side. There's grifters on both sides, but it's just like Tim Pool's logic is just so dumb. It's like, if Candace doesn't stop talking about Charlie, we're gonna lose every election for 10 years if Trump and the GOP don't start serving America and stop serving their donors. But their donors give them hundreds of millions and billions of dollars, and the corporations gave Trump hundreds of millions of dollars for this election. So Trump is serving the people who give him a lot of money. That's politics. They take the money, they work for the donors, they work for the corporations, and then the real good politician is the one who can convince Trump supporters or Democrats or whoever that they're not who they are. That's what makes a good politician. It's like being a WWE star. It's like you want to sell them on your character. That's why Trump is so effective. At this point, I have a hard time, and this is like really sad to admit, but it's like if he continues on the path he's doing now, I don't even know that he's any better than George Bush or Mitt Romney or John McCain or any of these people. Like, I don't really see his legacy as good. He was the father of the vaccine during a lockdown in which he extended the lockdown and got mad at states like Georgia who didn't lock down. Like, Trump is like a communist socialist scam artist who is more sold out to a foreign nation than some other politicians. He's just more obvious about it. So it's like, under no circumstances does he have this great legacy where he's doing so much. That's that brain rot brainwash from podcasts who are real grifters, convincing people that Trump is doing something when he's not. He's not responsible for inflation. It's both parties. Biden's responsible for inflation, and Trump and Mike Johnson, and they're all in on it. Oh, Trump's fighting the deep state. Trump takes meetings with Bill Gates. People are trying to convince, oh, Trump only did Operation Warp Speed to open the country. No, he didn't. First of all, Operation Warp Speed did not open the country. It was a socialist pharmaceutical scheme. Second of all, if you say, I'm a slave until a vaccine comes, now I can be free, you're an idiot. There's no situation where you only get to be free when there's a socialist vaccine scam coming your way. Third of all, Trump and Bill Gates met in 2018 to talk about a universal flu vaccine. And in September of 2019, Trump passed an executive order for vaccines 6 months before the pandemic. So this delusional Trump slop, oh, he's a victim to all this stuff. No, he knows exactly what he's doing and he's in on it. It's just in your head that he's fighting it. So the real grifters are the people that won't call out Trump and say that he's a part of it. We have no future. Our country has no chance if the opposition party, the GOP, is run by people like Trump who suck up billions of donor dollars and sell our country out to foreign nations and corporations. That's the big scandal. So that's the infighting. That's the whole thing. Are we going to turn into the party of George Bush and Mark Levin? If so, nobody's going to vote for that and we're going to lose the election. Are we going to turn into the real party? The donors are spending a bunch of money to make sure that it never happens. So it's like, I'm sorry, but if I'm concerned about that more than what Candace is saying on their podcast, there's a reason. Because before Candace was saying anything, I was talking about this in 2019 and 2020 and 2021 and 2022, 2023, 2024. So now it's not going to be framed as Candace versus the good guys or the grifters versus this. I'm not letting Tim Pool, beanie gremlin who lives in his little beanie bunker with his little beanie boys and beanie girls. I'm not letting Tim Pool reframe the conversation when I know for a fact Tim Pool is a disingenuous retard who won't tell the truth about what I just said and constantly talks over his guests when they bring it up. So it's like, that's the big scoop. You trying to reframe it as this versus this, or Trump versus DeSantis, or Candace versus this. No, what I just said is what's happening. What I just said is the future of the GOP. And if they want to win the midterms, they could serve our country and do something, but they don't. They complain about inflation when they're out of office, but they were the reason that the inflation was even here because they printed too much money during COVID. They get back in office. They're not serious about cutting off the deficit because they'd rather just let the Titanic sink and just loot us and send it to Ukraine, Israel, start another war in Venezuela and send it to the corporations who paid off Trump. Trump got hundreds of millions of dollars for his inauguration when he got in office. He broke records of taking money from corporations. He's working for them. He's working for the donors, not you, little beanie gremlin. Sorry, Beanie Pool. Sorry, little beanie boy. Tim Beanie. Trump doesn't work for you, Tim Beanie. He works for the donors, Tim Beanie. He works for the corporations, Tim Beanie. You know that, Tim Beanie. He posts Mark Levin all year on his True Social, Tim Beanie. He's crying about Rand Paul for being who Trump pretends to be, Tim Beanie. He's trying to get Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massie out of Congress because they don't work for a foreign nation, Tim Beanie. He's spending millions of dollars with his donors to plant somebody in Kentucky to get rid of Thomas Massie, Tim Beanie. That's the story, Tim Beanie. You know this, Tim Beanie. Stop acting so mad, Tim Beanie. You're the coward, Tim Beanie. Everybody knows it, Tim Beanie. It's not about Candace versus Turning Point for the midterms, Tim Beanie. It's about, are we going to have a party that serves us, or are you going to play stupid for the next 7 years and rot people's brain like Fox News, Tim Beanie? I would cook that little gremlin in a debate. That's why they probably sabotaged my appearance.
Like Stephen A. Smith will start agreeing with people like me and Joe Rogan. And they're going to try and win back the ground. And they're going to utilize the absurdity, psycho reality of Candace Owens to rip people from the right so that Democrats can start winning again. And that is the reality the right has to contend with. Conservatives had a coalition. Charlie helped build it. Disaffected liberals came on board. People like Candace are intentionally burning it to the ground. Stephen A. Smith is coming out. Bill Maher, even now coming out more reasonably. The Democrats are going to reemerge.
First of all, Joe Rogan doesn't even like Trump, is already talking on his podcast about how he's not a fan of what Trump's doing. Has nothing to do with what Candace Owens is saying. Nothing. Joe Rogan not liking Trump as much as he did 8 months ago is a result of Trump's actions and who Joe Rogan is. Bill Maher got invited to the White House, and now he's sucking up to Trump for the same reason that the mega donors and the Mark Levins and the Ben Shapiros are probably sucking up to Trump. Yeah, Bill Maher's this liberal, but he's also a Zionist. So the fact that Trump is also Zionist, now people like Bill Ackman and others, they're like, oh, yeah, look, I'm a right-winger now or whatever. It's like, okay, sure. You're a right-winger now. You love to fund elections or whatever. And it's like, cool. But it's like Stephen A. Smith is the biggest puppet in the world. He's the biggest corporate suck-up I've ever seen. Him liking Trump. Oh, wow. Stephen A. Smith likes Trump now. So it's Candace Owens' fault if Stephen A. Smith doesn't like Trump. What? Joe Rogan already doesn't like Trump. It has nothing to do with Candace Owens. And Bill Maher, who cares? Bill Maher met at the White House with Trump because Kid Rock brought him. And probably Bill Maher's thrilled with Trump because Bill Maher's a Zionist. And usually people in that category care about that a lot more than other topics. I don't dislike Bill Maher, but it's like Candace is going to ruin the relationship with Bill Maher. They're saying the same thing about Tucker Carlson. Oh, Tucker Carlson had Nick Fuentes on a podcast. Now nobody's going to vote for Trump because of Tucker Carlson. It's Tucker Carlson. If Candace wasn't there, they'd be blaming Tucker Carlson. It doesn't matter.
Like Stephen A. Smith.
Well, Stephen A. Smith. Cool, bro.
Those that sold their souls for woke and to COVID are going to lose out, and they're going to retire. The AOC types, you're going to see her desperately try to moderate, but we're going to see in these swing districts, they're going to try. Now, that being said, hyperpolarization, as I've already described, may affect New York and Los Angeles and Chicago, so we will see it. Maybe it all just gets ripped apart anyway, and you end up with 15 different factions all fighting for power in the federal government. All I can say is it is frustrating.
All right, let me give better analysis than Tim. He says that AOC is going to moderate and be moderate to win an election. Mamdani just won an election in New York City. Mamdani is not moderate. Mamdani is far left. He's a proud socialist, and he won an election. Yes, he presents himself better than AOC. AOC is like a psychopath, and Mamdani is probably also a psychopath, but he's like, he's a smooth character for sure. That's why he won, and they ran a shitty candidate. But my analysis is almost reverse of Tim Pool's. I think the Mamdanis are going to take over, and they're going to get, of course, they're going to like moderate a little bit, I guess, because like the Nancy Pelosi and them are going to just be like, hey, shut up. This is not how we run it here. Like, just be a sellout. And just like AOC is already a sellout, it's like, all right, sure, whatever. But in general, it's like the Mamdanis are going to win if Trump doesn't run the Tucker Carlsons. The future. And I'm not saying JD Vance is your best friend, but it's like JD Vance would be better than Marco Rubio. If they want to go the Rubio route, if they want to go the route of like the neocon Zionist puppet who just sucks up to Israel the whole time, they're going to lose the election to the AOCs and to the Mamdanis because the Democrats are a little more likely, it seems like, to let those type of people in. I mean, think about this. Mamdani is a socialist, probably like a proud communist behind closed doors. He's not apologetic about any of it at all. And he says he's going to arrest Netanyahu in New York City, which he'll never do. But, the Democrats like Kathy Hochul, they still let him in because they're like, they love chaos. They love, ruining stuff. It's like, well, he's one of us. He'll play ball a little bit. Who cares what he does? He's part of the whole, machine. What is Trump like? They're allowing Mamdani in. What is Trump doing to Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massie, and Rand Paul, who are not Mamdani, by the way? They're actually good politicians. Trump's trying to run them out of the party. So it's like, that's the real analysis is like, is Trump going to allow in the Massies, the Marjories, the Rand Pauls, or is she going to, or is Trump going to run them out for his donors, for the Randy Fine and the Mark Levin types and talk trash about Tucker Carlson? Exactly the opposite of what Tim Pool said. We're going to lose the next election if the GOP doesn't embrace the America First crowd. And if they just, decide to run like the Randy Fines. It's like eventually the Mamdanis are going to crush those people because Democrats are excited to vote for those type of people. Regular Democrats will vote for any Democrats, and Republicans are not going to be excited to vote for somebody that's not like a Tucker Carlson or a Massey in the future. That's my thoughts, at least. Like, people don't care about the word socialism anymore. Trump is a socialist. The GOP does socialism. If the GOP were free market capitalists, then we could probably win elections, but they're not. Trump is a pharmaceutical socialist. He's an international socialist. He wants companies to sell to America. He's a corporate socialist. Trump is a socialist. No one cares about socialism sucks when your party does socialism, and none of these organizations who cry about socialism will call Trump out because they'd probably rather suck Trump off than ever call him out. So it's like the youth doesn't give a shit about your little labels when you're complicit of them. It's ridiculous.
Those that sold their souls.
Oh yeah, Tim. Tell us about who's selling their soul, Tim Pool. Who's selling their soul? Let us know. Are you Miss Cleo, or are you a pastor, Tim? You know who's got their soul intact? Mr. Soulful Tim Pool, just a man of soul and bravery.
To look at everything that's happening in the world and realize, for a brief moment, my friends, maybe this is a little bit too black-pilled, but I'll say what I'm going to say. It looks like victory a year ago. It wasn't a long, protracted election. It was a snap and done. Trump won. Wow. And then one by one, cracks in this coalition begin to form. For whatever reason, the falling of Daily Wire, the ousting of Jeremy Boring.
The Trump coalition is falling apart because Trump's not doing what people wanted him to do, right? I voted for Trump in this election, and here's my logic. You can go watch my video. We'll see how it aged. I told people, I don't trust Trump. I don't even really necessarily like Trump. I think he's a sneak. I think he works for donors. I don't think he's Iron Man. I don't think he's a hero. I think he's going to probably blow it for the most part. But He's going to close the border, which he did, He's going to be better on immigration. I couldn't do 4 more years of Mayorkas leaving the border open. Unlike a lot of libertarians and anarchists and people who think they're smarter than me and truthers, I do believe in demographics. I think demographics matter. I don't think if you switch the populations of Japan and India, India would be Japan and Japan would be like that's not how the world works. Like there's certain demographics of Canada that made Canada Canada, and when you switch them, things are going to change. And I don't think they're going to change for the better. Same with America. Same with any country. Why are we different? People think we're so different because they're brainwashed. So I'm like, even if Trump sucks, if he closes the border, if he stops 15 million illegal people from coming in, that's better than Mayorkas. Also, I was like, maybe he'll actually end the Ukraine-Russia war, which he didn't. And to be honest, I think the pressure's so heavy there. Like, we'll see what Trump can do, but he hasn't done it. He's failed on that. And I think the Uniparty and the people that he works for really do not want him to bring that to an end. You could see that he's not able to. It's almost like he has no power. He's just like a meat puppet being like, can I do this? And they're like, no. All right, I tried. And then also like RFK, I thought was an interesting switch. To be fair, RFK has done some things for the better, but RFK being there is a blessing in another way. It shows you that the machine just can't be stopped. Like they can do little vaccine things. They could help a little bit. They could stop a kid from getting a hepatitis B vaccine at birth or whatever, like little things they could stop. But as far as like the spraying of the pesticides, the vaccine socialism that Trump wants to do, RFK, it doesn't seem to be able to do anything. But now it's a blessing in its own way. It's like Trump and RFK aren't going to save us. The problem's deeper. You can't just worship these people. We got to get in on it. But with that being said, it's like, Tim Pool saying the coalition's falling apart. Let me tell you why the coalition's falling apart. Let's get at it. Ready? Trump got in office because people wanted him to do disclosure on stuff like the Epstein files. People wanted him to end the wars. People wanted him to help with the economy. People wanted him to cut government spending. People wanted him to close the border. And he's failed on almost all of those except for closing the border. That's just a fact. Now Trump is in office saying there is no affordability issue. I'm going to build super small cars because all you brokies can't afford a real car. So I'm just going to build like a little midget car. He's embarrassing. It's like, he's acting like he's a billionaire saying there's no affordability issue while everyone in America knows it's shittier than it was 5 or 10 years ago. It's not necessarily Trump's fault, but he's just doing everything wrong. So that's where the coalition starts to break up. People joined for the RFK stuff. He's failing on that. He's lost a lot of those people. The Joe Rogans, the Theo Vaughns, the Andrew Schultz thought he was going to be so much better than Democrats. They're disgusted by a lot of things he's doing, including funding the war in Israel and Palestine, including just overdoing it on social media with the deportations, but underachieving on that topic and like using their likeness to just push weird government propaganda. They're all annoyed with Trump. Everyone's annoyed with Trump, and it has nothing to do with Candace Owens. Literally nothing. Like the reason that the coalition fell apart had nothing to do with it. And let's talk about Charlie Kirk while he was alive, because that's something I could prove. Charlie Kirk was one of the most pro-Israel people we've ever seen, and he tried to play ball with everybody. He was being smeared by the Zionists and neocons and the Israeli media to some extent. Not all of them, because some Israeli media is great, others not so much, just like American media. But in general, I would even say that American media is like worse than Israeli media, because Israeli media reports critically on Israel more than American media, which is really weird, by the way, for America. But anyway, Charlie was being smeared as an anti-Semite in his final months. Charlie was being smeared as pro-Hamas, and he was being smeared for platforming Tucker Carlson. So it's like Charlie was the most team player of anybody, and the Zionists and the neocons were smearing him. So when Tim Pool comes out and says something like, oh, it's just Candace Owens, Charlie Kirk was nothing like me, nothing like Candace Owens, nothing like Tucker Carlson, nothing like Nick Fuentes, nothing. Yet he still got smeared as an anti-Semite. If that doesn't show you how wicked and intense that, lobby is, what will? Charlie was probably, out of all the Gentiles I could think of that are non-Jews, Charlie was probably like the most pro-Israel I could even think of, outside of like Trump or something. If Trump's, I don't know what Trump is, and he still got smeared as an anti-Semite. What part does Tim Pool not understand? When Trump acts a certain way to win an election, then he gets in office, and then he just starts hiring and employing people that are just going crazy on everybody and not doing anything. That's what broke the coalition apart. I'm not going to say whatever you want, but like, speak the truth about Candace Owens if you want to speak the truth about something you think she's not doing right. But if your truth is blaming her for the election, that's not the truth. If your truth is, oh, we'd be united if it weren't for that, that's not the truth. And wondering why the coalition is divided, it's because Trump is not delivering. Trump had the perfect opportunity to win for the next 20 years. He got Tulsi Gabbard, one of the most popular Democrats among sane people. He got RFK Jr., one of the most popular Democrats among sane people. He got Joe Rogan. He got Theo Vaughn. He had all the podcasters on his side. He had the perfect opportunity to win for 20 years. All he had to do was do a good job and do what he said he was going to do. He's not doing that. The only people that still like Trump are boomers, people over 60 that watch Fox News and Newsmax, Zionists, neocons, people that used to hate Trump when he was actually going to do the right thing, allegedly, and people that are like Trump fans that would probably like sniff his farts and say they smelled like roses. People like Cat Turd. I got in 60 bar fights, Patriots. I got in so many bar fights and back in my age. Why? Is something wrong with you? Why'd you get in so many bar fights? Are you unstable? Are you an alcoholic? Are you know what I'm saying? That big of like, I got kicked out of hundreds of bars, but it's everybody else's fault. Yeah, we've heard that story before, bro. But it's like the coalition was destroyed because now only Trump butt sniffers and Zionists are like obsessed with Trump. Everyone else is like disgusted by Trump. You know how many messages that I've got saying, I apologize, Anomaly. You were right. I'm so sorry. I'm a 3-time Trump voter. I didn't want to know the truth, but it's so obvious now. Like, that's why the coalition's falling apart, Tim. Speak the truth about Candace, but lying and then saying you're a truther and such not a coward, like, it doesn't make sense. Why? I don't get it. Why can't people that don't agree with Candace, like, why can't they just like tell the truth? It's like fascinating. They're like, she's lying, so I'm gonna say all these things that make no sense. Okay. Like, all right, that's what you're gonna do. So, like, I see people tweeting, why won't people talk about Tyler Robinson? I don't know. Why won't you talk about Israeli influence in America? Why won't you talk about Trump's big donors? Why won't you admit that Trump took hundreds of millions of dollars from corporations? Why won't you admit Trump did socialism during 2020? Why won't you admit that Trump's the reason the coalition's falling apart? Like, why don't you talk about any of that stuff? Why haven't you talked about it for 6 years? What's the point of talking about libtards all day? People are too smart now. Some people are still retarded, but people are too smart now to fall for it's the libtards. Look at the libtards. People have more information now. There's more competition. Yes, Candace is one of them, but she's not the only one. And it's not her fault that people are waking up to certain topics. You know, this was always going to happen because the truth ages better than some stupid propaganda lie. 20 years ago, they told you all these wars in the Middle East were the truth, and they called everyone a terrorist. Now you have Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary, admitting on television that the Republican Party lied about that. The truth ages better than the propaganda. So it's like, you know, you think you're just going to yell libtards all day and talk about furries and that nobody's going to wake up to the reality of what our party is, regardless of that situation or not. Like, this is also a topic. And if you're not covering it, nobody's going to listen to you. I don't listen to anybody that doesn't talk about this topic because I know they're being disingenuous. I know they know better and they're playing a different role. And here's the thing. It's the same thing. I'm going to make a connection. I probably shouldn't, but at the same time, I feel like I should. All these organizations that say they're fighting anti-Semitism, they never consider self-awareness and self-accountability. And then they just put Miss Rachel on an anti-Semite of the year poster. And then they make millions of more people like not like what they're doing. So it's like, in order to fight anti-Semitism, you have to, not saying it's all someone's fault, but I'm just saying you have to factor in self-awareness and self-accountability. You can't just treat everyone like garbage constantly and wonder why people don't like to be treated like garbage. It's an insane way to act. It's the same thing with the GOP. They're down 20 to 80% in the polls right now because of us, not the left, us. We had the mandate. We had the moderates. We have Tulsi Gabbard. We have RFK. We have every reason to be up 80%, 20% in the next election, and we're not. It has nothing to do with what Candace is saying. It has everything to do with self-awareness and self-accountability. And the GOP is failing. It's them. It's us. It's our party. It's not her. There's other things you could say that she's doing, but it's not that. You know what I'm saying? I'm just being honest. It's like I'm trying to be reasonable, where it's like I see what people are trying to say about what she's saying, but somehow they just can't tell the truth. I even saw some election expert going at an account called like Murray Rothbard on Twitter being like, you know, the Rothbard account was like, Candace is not the reason Trump's losing the midterms. And they're like, yes, it is. I'm Richard Barris, the election expert. Trust me. Bro, if you're an election expert and you can't admit that there's 50 reasons more important than Candace Owens' podcast is the reason, one of his is psychology. 4 years of Joe Biden doing mandates and making everything super gay made people want to vote for Trump. They thought he would do better. Now that Trump's in office and not doing that much, the psychology of wanting what's not there, thinking that's going to be better and like deflating your voters. Another thing too, people don't even talk about this. In Dearborn, Michigan, Trump won in Dearborn. Why did Trump win in Dearborn? Because Trump wasn't in office. The war with Israel and Palestine started under Joe Biden. Joe Biden was funding Israel, and Israel was killing a bunch of people and then saying it's blood libel if you say that they're doing it. So the Muslims in Dearborn were like, let's give Trump a shot. Trump saying he's going to stop the war. Biden's a psychopath. Like, that mattered for that election. Now that Trump's in office, he's going to lose millions of votes the same way that the Democrats did, because Democrats didn't want to vote for what they considered a genocide. And now that Trump's in office and proves that he's really not that much different, a lot of people aren't going to vote for, like, there's different things that factor into an election. It's like, I'm an election expert and I'm telling you that Candace is the reason Trump's going to lose. Then you're not, you're about as good of an expert as the vaccine guy they had on Joe Rogan or freaking Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci's an expert. Don't question him. Like, that's what these people are becoming. I'm not saying that you can't criticize what Candace is doing, but if you're really going to jump on the bandwagon, dude, Candace does this thing to people. It's crazy. Like, she drives them nuts and then they can't act normal. I follow a Twitter account on Twitter that I use a lot because they're factually accurate on almost everything they say. They're always very credible. It's called the Calvin Coolidge Project. And I've been using their posts or responding to their posts because they're very, they very rarely make mistakes. They started tweeting about Candace just making factual errors. And I was like, listen, dude, I'm not saying you have to agree with everything Candace does, but what you said is like provably false. Like, it's not my opinion. Like, you're just literally making something up that's not there. And it's like, he didn't care. He was like, oh, I don't care. I don't like her. I'm like, it's like Candace derangement syndrome. I'm like, why can't you get, like, I don't, like, with Trump, I don't even like Trump. But when I watch what the left says about Trump, they don't make sense. It's like with Candace, like, the people that don't like her don't make sense. It's crazy. I don't like her, so I'm going to say she's ruining the election. It makes no sense. It doesn't matter that you're an election expert. You're dumb. You're dumb. What are people doing? Like, why are they so, like, emotionally manipulated to the point where they just can't tell the truth? I don't understand it. Let's listen to the last clip real quick.
He's gone. Whatever it is going on with Daily Wire, I have no idea. But for some of these guys, their views have gone down. There's been heavy critiques. There's the Israel and anti-Israel rights now fighting each other. You see these cracks forming. You get the Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes dispute, and now Candace Owens is trying to burn down Turning Point. And so what it feels like to me is we're watching the ship sink.
I mean, I get what he's saying there. There definitely are a lot of divisions, but like I said earlier, I think I gave reasons for why. And at a certain point, if you have neocons and Zionists who want the party to go in one direction, and Tucker Carlson, Rand Paul, Marjorie, who want it to go in another direction, it's natural. Like, it's either going to go one way or the other. So it's like someone's going to be unhappy. I don't want to please all the neocons and let them get their way with everything, or else I'll just unregister and not vote. So I get what he's saying there. When it comes to the Turning Point thing, I just want to give my opinion, because when it comes to what Candace is saying, I haven't listened to her show the last month. I don't know exactly what she's saying, and I'm not going to speak on it, unlike everybody else who just makes up stuff she says. If I want to speak fluently on what she's saying, I have to watch all the things, which I'm probably not going to do. So let me just tell you what I think outside of what Candace and Tim are saying, right? Like, I don't know what their angles are. Here's my angle. Charlie, when he was alive, regardless of what you think about who killed him, whatever, like, I'm just going to stick to what I know factually. Charlie was hosting Tucker Carlson. Charlie was hosting Dave Smith. Charlie was allowing people like myself and others to come easier than we could a couple years ago. Like, Turning Point was turning at a turning point. I was there at the event this year. It was way different. The vibes were different. The employee, everything was different. There was this was happening anyway. And Charlie wanted to be the point guard that brought both sides together. And then he got murdered, right? And now there's people who's taking over his organization, who gets to call the shots. Why is Tim Pool is a normie? Why would Tim Pool not be invited to Turning Point? Why, I saw somebody in the Pentagon room from Turning Point asking, like kind of prying for like, more strikes on Iran or asking like a loaded question about that, Charlie himself lobbied in the White House apparently against war with Iran. So it's like, I think, me personally, it's going to be interesting to see which way Turning Point goes, because Charlie was, I'm not going to say flipping completely, but he wasn't turning his back on Tucker Carlson and Dave Smith and people that are more critical of Israel, or at least critical of the relationship of American politicians and their donors, etc. That was happening, regardless of what anyone said. And now, if it starts to move in the other direction and they start closing the door on Tucker Carlson, closing the door on Tim Pool and stuff like that, that is a little weird. And it's like, if this is the biggest youth organization in the world, at what point is anyone allowed to criticize it? Like, I'm going to be honest. I was highly critical of Charlie Kirk in 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022. I don't regret it, because I think Charlie's views and stances changed based on people being honest to him. And I think he started realizing that he was in a rock and a hard place between the truth and donors and influences on his side that he had to please. So I could see that Charlie was a good person towards the end of his life, and he was really in a tough spot because, a lot of his donors and stuff were not pumped with the direction he was going. But in general, it's okay it's okay to critique Turning Point. It's okay to critique Trump. It was okay to critique Charlie. And I do believe that Charlie loved debates, and the critique of Charlie led Charlie, like, he was saying that he didn't like certain policies in 2019 and they were so bad. And then in 2022 and 2023, Charlie started adapting those policies. So to me, it seemed like Charlie was quicker to change and learn and evolve than even Trump or anyone in the GOP. That's why Charlie is I can't even really explain how big of a loss Charlie is, because I had no idea until recently that he was that guy. He was connected. He was one of the biggest deals in the Republican space. He was connected to the donors and the establishment, but he was the only one with those mega connections and mega influence that was willing to change. He went harder in his final couple months and final couple years than anybody in his position. And anybody that goes that hard is not in that position because they won't let anyone get to that position. I said a few things in 2019. I basically got blacklisted from any position. I'm not complaining about it, but I know that they don't want people in those positions to say those things. So if Charlie is like the most powerful 30-year-old in America in the Republican space, if he's probably a future president, if he can call Trump or JD Vance and get to the White House in a week and they'll let him in whenever, he hosts all these politicians, clearly Charlie has a power level and an establishment power level that most people his age do not. And with that, people in those positions, nobody was challenging them. Nobody was talking about October 7th the way he was. Nobody was getting called an anti-Semite because they wouldn't turn on Tucker Carlson. I mean, JD Vance is a little bit, but you get what I'm saying? It's just like, he's such a huge, tremendous loss. And now that he's not there, someone's going to take over his organization, and they're not necessarily going to push it in the same direction that Charlie would. I can't tell you who Charlie would have been, but I could tell you who he was and what he was saying in his last few months. So, if you're saying, I don't want Tucker Carlson on the stage, well, Charlie did. It's a fact that Charlie wanted to stand by Tucker Carlson. So if you're saying, I want Turning Point to take him off, you're going against Charlie's wishes, right? And then it becomes a big fight over Charlie's legacy where they say this and they say this, but it's a very ugly thing going on. And I will just watch and see which direction that Turning Point goes in. But like Tim is saying, it's like Candace is definitely a leader because she's like the most powerful voice and she's the biggest voice. But even if Candace wasn't there saying it, people would be criticizing Turning Point. People would have theories. People would not be united in our party. But if you want to point out that you don't like what she's saying and you want to be factual about it, it makes sense. I have no problem with that. I just don't believe that's what Tim did because Tim blamed her for the midterm election, which is so fake. So you can't tell the truth by lying, lean into the truth, call out whoever you want, but be factually accurate about it and be honest. Don't be so fake. You know what I'm saying? $10 super chat. I'm going to read this. This is very nice. Thank you. Someone said, sent with love from a proud Jewish Zionist. I feel so bad you got blacklisted. I would not want you to fail at making your position look even more stupid. I support your stupidity. All right. Well, thank you. I thought you were supporting me, but now you're saying I'm stupid. Can I tell you my issue, my friend? Because my issue is not with Israel or Zionism or any of that. My issue is that America should serve America. If there's a mega donor giving Trump and the GOP $500 million, they're in the White House more than anybody, lobbying for a foreign nation. Trump does things for a foreign nation because they want him to. And then Trump passes a speech law that says I'm an anti-Semite for saying what I just said because you're not allowed to talk about dual loyalty, even though Trump does. That's my issue. It has nothing to do with Israel. It has to do with America. You understand? So if you're a proud Jewish Zionist, I think I made complete sense there. If you want people to like your movement more and trust you more and believe in what you're doing more, you have to stop calling, I'm not saying you, but that side has to stop calling people an anti-Semite every 2 seconds, for being honest. Trump has admitted that his biggest donor wants things for Israel. Trump has admitted that his biggest donor, one of his biggest donors, he thinks they like Israel more than America. And Trump is in the White House signing executive orders that pass an international definition of anti-Semitism that says you can't say that any Jewish American has dual loyalty to Israel, even though Trump literally said that. So Trump is breaking his anti-Semitism speech laws. Why can't I talk about this? Why do people freak out about this? The more people don't allow people to talk about it or freak out about it, the more untrustworthy you seem. Because if I was you, I would be like, no, that makes total sense. Like, yeah, that I would, if Israel passed a law that said you couldn't say that American politicians controlled Israel, but they were funding Israel and getting them to do things for America, why would Israel pass a speech law to prevent Israelis from talking about America? But all over the world, there's anti-Semitism speech laws, and they're all the same law. It's very Orwellian. I told people in 2019 this would be a popular topic eventually because it's just obvious. And like with everything, now everyone's talking about it. Who was talking about it in 2019? You probably can only list a few people on your hand of people that were brave and honest enough to talk about this 6 years ago when they had nothing to gain and everything to lose. So that's when I said it, right? Now it's a popular topic. Now you can make money talking about it. Now it's a trend. I'm not jumping on the trend. I'm just speaking facts, that I said 6 years ago. But thank you for the super chat. I'll take the money. We all need a little money around this time of season. Let's read a few comments and then I'm going to take off. I'm going to keep this under 1:30 for sure. So we got 8 minutes. Let's make it fun. I just want to let you guys know too, I got these hats real quick for Christmas. If you haven't got a Christmas gift, we'll get them to you by Christmas. The God bless hats. Sorry, I'm like squeezing them really hard, but dreamrare.com. I think till tonight, I just want to let people know. And then I'm going to read another one. Let me see it. Where is it? Okay. I think this code works until 12 o'clock tonight. So just letting you know, if you want that 10% off code, I did it Monday through Friday for Cyber Monday, whatever. But USA made, all caps lock, all one word, USAMADE, dreamrare.com. Get yourself a beanie, get yourself a hat. It's spelled like Dream Rare right there. So you guys get it. Go get that 10% off. Someone said made in USA, Japan. It's not made in Japan, but that's okay. Someone said Trump let Israel pick Hegseth from Fox News. Well, I don't know if Israel picked him, but I do know that Trump takes a lot of donor money, and Trump, pretty much his entire cabinet is not people like Thomas Massie and Rand Paul. It's people like Mark Levin, but left-wing nationalist. Okay, interesting. Someone said Rogan 2028 is the move. He beats Vance and Shapiro. Rogan is compromised. Game it out. Happy Feel Good Friday. I don't think Joe Rogan's not going to run for office, but I don't think he would ever run for office, and maybe he would win. I don't know, but what type of president would he be? At this point, I'm like, I don't even care who runs. I just want people to pay attention. I truly believe that the more people kind of pay attention, the more they get, and the more they believe in someone. Like even if JD Vance runs, like it's not Batman versus like Ursula from like Ariel. You know what I'm saying? Like people got to get over this. Like it's Iron Man versus Thanos or whatever. I don't even know who Thanos is. I've never even seen those movies, but I'm trying to be trendy. Is Thanos a good guy or a bad guy? I just assume he's bad, but you get what I'm saying? It's like regardless of who runs, people need to just stop trusting these people and just realize what they're doing. If Hillary did Operation Warp Speed and I talked about it, Republicans would be like, yeah, you're right. When Trump does it, 50% of the base makes excuses. It's crazy. I'm not shocked by it anymore because it's like how things work, but it's like people are brainwashed by Trump where they they don't want to look at reality and facts. They want to just like make up fantasies. But here's my thing. If you could go back 40 years and correct all the wrongs that your government did, wouldn't you want to do it? Imagine in the 80s and 90s, somebody telling you the truth and you being like, that's a black pill. You're just black pilled if you don't trust Ronald Reagan. You're just black pilled if you don't trust Jimmy Carter. You're just black pilled if you don't trust George Bush. You're black pilled. And then 40 years later, your whole country is screwed. And it's like, oh, how did this happen? How is it a black pill to pay attention? Like, how is it optimistic to lie to yourself? How is it a white pill to literally just get tricked on loop so your grandkids have no future? I don't understand it. It's like, I'm not a negative person. I might seem negative on Twitter because I don't post when I'm like in a good mood. I just live my life off the computer. But you get what I'm saying? It's like, I don't understand. I don't get people's logic. Like, you think you'll be happier lying to yourself and getting tricked and then, messaging me 3 years later on Instagram, hey, I'm sorry, unblock me on Twitter. I was wrong. I'm sorry for cursing at you. It's like, how is that optimistic? How is that like heroic? I don't like, why does the truth about politics scare you so much? Like, why? Like, it's scary. Like, what are you, like 5 years old? You're a baby? Like, lying to yourself about Trump makes you feel better than telling the truth about it? What, you need a baby blanket too? Do you want a onesie and we'll put Teletubbies on the TV for you? It's like, grow up. You know what I'm saying? What is that? Someone said Rogan would have never locked down the country. I don't think Rogan would really be like this like hero politician, but whatever. We'll see. Someone said, I do not call people I'll read this. I do not call people anti-Semites. I am all for free speech, but people take it way too far. It was my family that was killed in the Holocaust, something you cannot understand. Yeah, like, so what do you think is the solution, Stargazer? You don't have to give the super chat. Do you think people should be arrested in Germany for questioning the numbers? Do you think people should be thrown out of school? Like, do you think Israel should be able to kill tens of thousands of women and children, and people should be called blood libel? It's blood libel if they tell the truth about it. If you say you want like kids to not get blown up, are you anti? Like, I don't get, like, what do you want? Like, like, what's the solution to your trauma and pain, historical pain? Do you want people to trust what you're saying, or do you want everyone to not believe what you're saying when you talk about present events because like you don't give them a fair share? I get what you're saying. I just don't know what the solution is. Like, why is it a crime in multiple countries that throws you in prison to question only one part of history? But if I said that George Washington was a gay communist tranny, Americans don't care. I have the freedom of speech to say that, but I don't have the freedom of speech on one topic. And, there's no speech laws for my race or religion, but for yours there is. If I say that, Trump's donors have dual loyalty, I'm an anti-Semite, even though it's a factually accurate statement. I'm not saying you say it, but it's a law being passed in America to label me an anti-Semite for speaking facts about numerous topics, So I get there. I understand what you're saying with like free speech, because like when I log into the internet, there's a lot of people saying things I don't agree with, I don't like, I don't think is healthy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get what you're saying, but like, what's the solution? Is the solution to create one set of speech laws for one group of people that just makes everybody more annoyed? There's definitely modern issues to everyone talking online all the time. Like it's definitely not healthy. Someone said they can't actually support their position in good faith and then completely depend on ad hominems to shut down the conversation. I mean, that happens in politics often. Someone said, why would there be speech laws in America for white people exactly? Well, there's not. There's speech laws for one race, one religion, and one foreign nation. And then sometimes they pass like resolutions that are like, you can't talk about the Native American, two-spirited, transgender, left-wing. It's like, all right, bro. I don't think any, like, none of this stuff is actually working. Like, it's not making. And this is what I would say. And I don't know I don't know you personally, my friend. Thank you for the super chat before. But here's what I would say. Can I tell you my story real quick? Just going through politics and life. I really have to pee, so I don't know how long I have. But My whole life, I never thought much about race or religion, right? I'm just going to give like a story. One of my best friends growing up was Jewish. His family was really nice to me. His mom was really nice to me. I his mom was extremely nice to me. I never once felt like his family was rude or talked down to me or felt like they were better than me. Literally, it's I'm not gonna say their name because I'm not like trying to dox them, but like one of the nicest families. His mom, shout out to his mom, one of the nicest moms I've ever met. They take me on vacations, we'd kick it. We didn't really talk about race or religion much. I knew he was Jewish. I didn't like fully understand it. Like, is it a race or who cares? I've only like in my personal life before politics, I've only had good experiences with Jewish people. I mean, I'm sure someone along the lines I didn't have a good experience with, but that's every race, right? I had no bias against Jewish people or Judaism or Israel. Never in my life. I had a positive bias, right? I thought great things. I got into politics. I had a pro-Israel bias just based off of what everyone was saying. I didn't side with Palestine. I thought Israel had the right to defend itself. And if someone threw a rock at a tank, I was like, why would you throw a rock at a tank? I was pro-Israel, right? I started asking if it was a race or a religion because I didn't know, and I started getting called an anti-Semite. I thought that was weird, so I started researching more, and I was like, well, is it a race or a religion? Then I learned it was a little bit of both for some people, but it wasn't until I started talking about the speech laws. It had nothing to do with Jewish people or Israel or what I thought about it. I was pro-Israel. I'd only had good experiences with Jewish people in my life. Still to this day, some of my favorite people are Jewish. It's just like in politics, I started noticing that Trump and DeSantis were passing anti-Semitism laws against the U.S. Constitution for Jews, Judaism, and Israel, and I disagreed with it. From that moment on, it's like not all, but a lot of the Jewish world disagreed with me. I had one friend that was Jewish from Los Angeles send me an email and was like, "You hate me?" I was like, "Bro, what are you talking about? What do you like?" So you understand what I'm saying? It's like, I don't know. Talking about the speech laws just made a lot of people just turn against me and say really rude stuff. And then I just started talking about influence in American politics and anti-Semite, 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 anti-Semite. And then a war breaks out, and most of the world sympathized with Israel after they got attacked, but then within 2 weeks, Israel just went nuts on Palestine. And most people don't like that. Most people don't think it's normal to kill hundreds of journalists and tens of thousands of civilians. And listening to people go on Fox News and say there are no civilians, they're all guilty, they all need to die, but it's not a genocide. It's like as a group, no one's responsible for anything. But if you want to wonder where like people are coming from, it's mostly coming from present actions and present backlash from anybody who speaks the truth on a numerous topics. So it's like, people could lie about me for the rest of my life, call me an anti-Semite, call me a hater, when most of my life I had nothing but positive experiences with Jewish people. But the reality is, if you talk about the truth of American politics, they call you an anti-Semite. If you talk about Israeli influence, they call you an anti-Semite. You say the truth about what they're doing, they call it blood libel, and they say it's this historical thing that everybody has always done. It's like there's no accountability or self-awareness. They just want to stop people from saying things that are objectively true on every topic. So it's like, if you're an American Zionist, why are you not weirded out by the fact that they're passing hate speech laws in almost every state and in our country, in Argentina and France? Like, we need an international hate speech rule for Jews in Israel that says that you can't say they have dual loyalty. Meanwhile, Jonathan Pollard's in Israel saying, that people do have dual loyalty, and he thinks that they should spy on America because that's what he did. So if you were in America noticing that Jonathan Pollard was selling America out, you would have been called an anti-Semite. You get what I'm saying? It's like there's really no way around it. Like if you want more allies, you got to stop calling 99% of the world anti-Semites for just being factually accurate. Are some people assholes? Absolutely. Are some people rude? Yes. Are some people wrong and disrespectful? Totally. But most people being called an anti-Semite aren't. I could play a clip of you real quick. Actually, I'm going to play this clip because I have to pee really bad and it'll be perfect. Charlie Kirk was one of the most pro-Israel Gentiles on planet Earth, yet he was being smeared as an anti-Semite in his final year. I'm going to upload this real quick and then I'm going to pee and then I'll be back. So this will give me a few more time. But I'm an extremely nice person. I would say I'm one of the more reasonable and moderate people on this position, and I'm not hateful. I'm not arrogant. I'm not disrespectful. Same with every topic. Like, some people are really rude to Indians nowadays because Indians are like immigrating everywhere, and people are tired of like H-1B visas and just like mass Indian immigration. I get where people are coming from, and I do think there's too much immigration, but I don't like dislike Indian people. I've had good experiences with Indian people in my life. You understand what I'm saying? It's like I get, but I'm not rude. If I'm going to talk about Indian immigration, I'm going to be factual about it. I'm not going to be disrespectful to people because of their heritage or their race. Like, I don't believe in that. I generally and genuinely like people unless I have a reason not to. I've met dozens of amazing Indian people in my life. I've met dozens of amazing Jews. I've met good Christians. I've met good black people, good white people. So if I talk about demographics and race, etc., I don't have to do it from a negative place. I don't have to make fun of people. I don't have to be rude. I could just be factually accurate. It's like, I do notice a pattern between crime rates and demographics. I do think there's too much mass immigrations. I do think H-1B visas are a scam. I do think, Canada was a mostly French country, and if there's too much mass immigration, it's going to change. And I don't have to think it's going to change for the better. It doesn't mean I hate individual people. If I didn't want Japan to become Venezuela, or I didn't want England to become Saudi Arabia, or I wouldn't want Dubai to become like the Congo, it's not a hateful thing. It's like a logical, accurate position. And I feel like when I do it from a place of not hate, it holds more weight because I'm not making fun of people. I'm not judging them based on something they can't control. I'm not, it's just a factual pattern recognizing reality to a situation. It's like, just because I like individuals of certain kinds, it doesn't mean if the demographics of countries shift that it's not going to change. It absolutely is going to change. And, if I go to Sweden, I want it to look like Sweden, not the Middle East. And when I go to the Middle East, I'm totally fine with it looking like the Middle East. Like, I don't, I think tourism is good, but I do think every country should have and should control their immigration to not lose a majority demographic. Like, why would I want to go to Denmark and have it look like it was some country in the Middle East? Like, why would that, it doesn't make any sense to me. Why would I want to go to Japan and have it look like San Francisco or like the Congo? I'm not saying that's happening. It's just like, how is that racist to want, like, if Japan changes its demographics completely, it's not going to be Japan in 50 years. It's going to lose thousands of years of heritage and culture, and you're allowed to want to go to Japan more than you want to go to another country. So, that's my reality. Someone said you're not judging people. You have never been to Israel, yet you critiquing the war. This is the thing, bro. I'm being so respectful, so kind. Everybody could see my soul and my love, yet it's never enough for you people. And when I say you people, I mean people acting like you and people that treat others the way you treat them, because it's just never enough. It's like, I'm not judging the war. I'm just telling you it's going to be massively unpopular if you just kill a bunch of women and kids. But if you want to kill a bunch of women and kids and then say it's hateful that everybody doesn't like it, I wouldn't like if America did it. I don't want to start a war with Venezuela. I think Trump's lying about that. It doesn't make me like drug boats. I just think Trump and the neocons are lying about Venezuela. But anyway, just to show you, Charlie Kirk was pro-Israel. Charlie Kirk supported Israel. Charlie Kirk basically worked for them or on their behalf on so many topics. Charlie Kirk did everything he could for Israel. And look how they treated Charlie Kirk in his final months. They called him an anti-Semite. They stressed him out, and they morally blackmailed him and essentially smeared his character. So I'm not saying Israel necessarily did it, but a lot of Zionists and a lot of dual loyalty people who just treat everyone like shit all the time. So if you want to treat everyone like shit, no one's going to like it. You know what I'm saying? This is Charlie Kirk. Say what you want about me. This is Charlie Kirk right here. Listen to what he was dealing with in Republican media, and then ask yourself, what's really going on here?
So, like, let me ask a question. If we were to remove, like, if people said what Tucker said is anti-Semitic, I don't hold that view. But it's like a lot of people on Twitter are like calling us out and like, whatever. That's not going to happen. But if we were to cancel Tucker, would anti-Semitism increase or decrease?
I think increase, because that means any supporter of Tucker Carlson's statement therefore makes them anti-Semite.
Exactly. And association.
Mm-hmm.
But I got text about you, Megan, saying, why is Megan like doing the bidding of Hamas? I was like, what are you talking about? Megan's the best. Like, what? Like, she's amazing. And I said, why are you texting me about Megyn? And I at that point, and so this is what they don't understand. You and I, Megyn, and Tucker is in the same category, and they've tried to go after Tucker.
Yeah.
Is that and the more you attack our moral character, the more we're going to double down in a direction, because
100%.
Screw you, I don't do it that way, okay? And I will say this, the behavior by a lot, both privately and publicly, are pushing people like you and me away. Not like we're going to be pro-Hamas, not like we're going to, but we're like, honestly, the way you are treating me is so repulsive. I have text messages, Megyn, calling me an anti-Semite. I am learning biblical Hebrew and writing a book on the Shabbat. I honor the Shabbat, literally the Jewish Sabbath. I visit Israel and fight for it. And there's another article out in the Times of Israel today. I could read it on air. I was just reading before I got on. Charlie, what are you doing? Like, what am I doing? I'm sorry. Like, let's just take a step back here. Like, I'm an American citizen.
Not to get graphic, but I had to pee so bad. I peed the whole time. That was crazy. But sorry about that. So let me ask my friend in here. Let me see what they're saying. What do you think about that? Charlie bent over backwards for Israel's whole career and then still was getting called Hamas and pro-Israel. And by the way, if you get called Hamas, that's a heavy accusation, because if you listen to anybody on the news, especially like Zionist Republican media, they say we need to kill all Hamas. Even if you're a journalist, if they call you Hamas, they want to kill you. Like, literally, they're like, you're all, it doesn't matter if you're a baby, a woman, a journalist. Like, they killed hundreds of journalists in Palestine. So what does it mean if someone calls you that? It's the same thing the right says with the word Nazi. They say the left doesn't call you a Nazi for any other reason besides they want to call you a Nazi and then justify someone killing you. So isn't that what everyone's doing with Hamas as well? Like, Tucker has nothing to do with Hamas. Charlie had nothing to do with Hamas. Megyn has nothing to do with Hamas, but they're calling Megyn Hamas. Whether they know it or will admit it or not, they're essentially, threatening her. It's a veiled threat, because we already know what they're doing. There were hundreds of journalists that, it's like being in Israel. It's like if you're a journalist in Israel, you have to work with the IDF or else you can't be there. And that's okay. How else are you going to be a journalist in Israel? There's a guy named Trey Yinks that works in Israel. I like Trey. I think Trey's a good reporter. I think he's a good guy. Maybe you don't agree with me, but two of my favorite mainstream reporters, I like Bill Malugin. I think he does a good job, and I think Trey Yinks is a good reporter. But it's like, of course, you got it. I'm sure Trey knew Hamas at some point too, because he used to report in Palestine. I'm not saying it's necessarily great, but it's he's not a bad person because of it. It's just how else do you get there and report? So they you know what I'm saying? It's that's journalists in Palestine, but a journalist in America who just slightly disagrees with Israel, if you call them Hamas, you're essentially threatening them. It's not good, and it's not going to make people like people more. Someone said it's that dog whistle. Well, it's not even a dog whistle. It's just I don't even like that word, because it's I think you said that. It's not but yeah, no, technically you're right. But I'm just saying it's if you say that group needs to die, and then you call Megyn Kelly that group, are you not justifying her? Right? No. It's different with it. Why? But that's why and listen, we all need to think about what we're saying. I don't get involved in other people's stuff and drama because I'm responsible for what I say. I don't do anything out of cowardice. I do it out of spirit. I feel spiritually good. I feel mentally good when I tell the truth, when I'm accurate. Even with people I don't like, I feel good having grace with them, because it just feels right. I don't need to overdo it, in order to make my point. With Tim, I have to admit, I do like making Tim Pool jokes, and perhaps it's a flaw, but I do find it funny. But besides that, I think I have a lot of grace with people. Well, with Tim, I don't know why. I just find it so funny to make Tim jokes, but someone said, are we done blabbering about points yet? Unfortunately, this is my podcast, and I get paid to blabber about points, so you're in the wrong show, bro. It's dude, I watched a podcast with Tucker Carlson, dude. He just talked the whole time. Can you believe that, dude? I listened to a Tucker Carlson podcast, a 3-hour one. He talked. He just kept talking. I mean, I could stop talking if you want, but it might be a lot less entertaining for people. You know, I don't talk about Islam. What about it? It's a religion. Let me tell you this, Stargazer. If there were an Islamic donor that gave Trump $500 million and then there were Islamic speech laws being passed in America to say I couldn't criticize Islam or Saudi Arabia or Qatar, and then I got called an anti-Islamophobe for talking about it, I would talk about Islam every day. But it's usually Zionists trying to yell Islam, 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 so nobody realizes that the real influence in America is not Islam. I'm not Islamic, I'm Christian, but you know, like Zionists being hysterical over it so nobody realizes. Like I said, if Qatar lobbies Trump and gets speech laws for Qatar passed in America, I'll talk about it every day. If Qatari billionaires that have dual loyalty buy off the GOP and there's a Qatari political action committee that brags about, you know, lobbying most of Congress successfully, then I'll talk about it every day. If I got smeared for being a nice guy and being honest by the Qatar lobby for 5 years straight and written about in their media for speaking facts about my own country, I would talk about it every day. But it wasn't Qatar. It was Israel and Zionists. So it wasn't the whole country, but it is a pattern that everybody notices. It's like, you know, it's the whole like Qatar cope is like coming from people that can't talk about the real influence. With that being said, I found it so funny that so there's this girl named Emily Saves America, and for a while she was like going to Israel, taking the trips, being like Israel's great, you guys are being hateful, blah blah blah, and like Israelis and Zionists and dual loyalty people loved Emily. They were like, Emily's so great, stop being anti-Semitic. And then she went to Qatar, maybe on a paid trip or not, I have no idea, with like a few influencers. And the Zionists are freaking out at her. They're like, how dare you? How dare you? You're only supposed to fly to Israel. What are you doing? And I'm laughing hysterically because I'm like, it just shows like they want all the Republican influencers to fly to Israel and say the Israel talking points. But the second they flew to Qatar, they're like bugging out. I just find it funny. You know, I'm like, yeah. Someone said, who are the biggest donors to America? It's not Israel. You are disingenuous. Nothing further. It's not the country of Israel. Who gave Trump and the GOP $500 million? The Adelson family, over $500 million. Trump says he thinks the wife likes Israel more than America and that they would come to the White House more than anyone asking for things for Israel. Is George Soros Qatari? Is he Qatar? Wait, is George Soros a Muslim? He's a Qatari Muslim, right? George Soros and the Adelson family. Wait, is Zelensky Qatari? Was Zelensky's big donor Kolomoisky Qatari? Was he building big Muslim facilities? Wait, was Jeffrey Epstein Qatari? Wait, is AIPAC secretly working for Qatar? Wait. Are a majority of media companies in America being bought out by Qatari billionaires? Is Larry Ellison Qatari? Does he donate money to Qatar and say that? Wow, I'm starting to see it everywhere now. Oh my gosh. Good. Thanks for pointing it out. Yeah. It's big. It's really big. It's them Irish. I mean, you never know what they're up to. Oh yeah, and all the pornography companies are probably owned by Qataris as well. Because that's a Qatari, what is it? It's an Islamo-Christian value to just pump pornography. And then doesn't the guy who owns OnlyFans, Rolling Stone did a report and said he like donated to AIPAC. Must be Qatar. It's a lot of Qatar going on. I'm sure Trump is mad at Rand Paul, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Thomas Massey for not selling out to Qatar. That must be what it is. Someone said, don't say Qatar. Be honest. I'm being sarcastic, obviously. Let's see. All right, we're going to keep it under 2 hours now. I said 1:30, but we're having a good time. I think we're having a good time. I'll read some super chats and I'll read any comments. But yeah, if you guys have any comments on the actual video, that would be cool too. But apparently you guys just can't stay on topic. Someone said, just because Trump said something, it means there's zero proof. Everyone knows that Trump's big donor, like Trump admitted that they came to the White House always asking for things for Israel. If you want to make the claim that they're not asking for things for Israel, no one believes that. So I don't, that's one of those things where it's like that Trump said it because it's true. Trump saying which country they like more, that's his opinion. But as far as Trump saying they're coming to the White House asking for things for Israel, are you suggesting they were in the White House not asking for things for Israel? Do you have a story to break? Do you have sources? I mean, everyone knows it's okay. You don't have to lie about everything. It doesn't help your cause. It's like, I want people to trust me, so I'm just going to lie all the time. It's like, okay. I want people to like me. I'm just going to treat them like garbage all the time. Okay. Charlie Kirk's really nice to us. Let's just call him an anti-Semite a million times. That'll help. How is that a good strategy? It's the same thing with the GOP. It's not Candace. It's not this person. It's not Tim Pool's beanie, running the show like plankton in a machine. It's Trump's administration. Same with like the FBI, where like, they're spurging out about like people not trusting them. I get it. If I were Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, I'm sure it would bother me too if I was trying to do a good job. But you can't act oblivious. Like, why don't people trust the FBI? Why don't people trust us? The same reason you didn't trust them a year ago on a podcast. Like, I'm not asking you to not be annoyed at everybody, because some people are annoying, but this like genuine shock. It's like, if you want to know why people don't trust you, listen to yourself 2 years ago about what you said about it. Don't you have like, if I be, not that it would ever happen, but if I became the director of the FBI and people were like, I don't trust it, I would understand why. It's like, obviously, like, it would be like, yeah, I get why people wouldn't trust it. I want to earn your trust, but I'm not going to earn your trust by like spurging out at you for not trusting me, And to be honest, there's always going to be people that say stuff on the internet. I get it's annoying, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, there's people making false claims. Yeah, there's people saying dumb stuff, but also you're doing dumb stuff. Like the FBI made a Twitter account and tried to fact check Thomas Massie and Tucker Carlson. Thomas Massie and Tucker Carlson are two of the most honest people we have. They're not perfect, but they're way more honest than everyone else. And if you're showing me that your agency is making a Twitter just to counter Thomas Massie and Tucker Carlson, that tells me everything I need to know. It's not good. But there's a lot of people that you could be countering that aren't Tucker and Massie, but I guess that's a priority. That's scary. But someone said, you seem to have a hate bone for Tim Pool, a tad catty. I wouldn't say I hate Tim Pool. I would just say that I do think it's funny to make fun of him, but also I flew out to have a conversation with Tim. I landed in time to get to the podcast. They told me it was too late, and they want me to get there an hour early in order to prepare, so I can't make the podcast on time. They wouldn't reschedule for the next 3 days when I was sitting in Washington waiting to get on the podcast, and made up fake excuses while they had a bunch of nobodies on and could have gave me the microphone for 5 or 10 minutes. So they sabotaged my thing. His booker at the time, who is obviously, in my opinion, a super sneaky Zionist, told me, right? His booker at the time told me, we've never had this issue. And I had a rain delay for like an hour. I go, how have you never had this issue? Like, I wasn't delayed all day. I was delayed for an hour. And then she goes, well, normally we fly people in a day prior. We've never cut it this close on a flight. So I said, why would you cut it so close on my flight if you knew that if I got there on time, it wasn't allowed because you want me there an hour early? Even if I landed on time, I would have barely made it in time if their rule is you have to be there an hour early in order to get on the podcast. She goes, well, I booked your flight. I've never booked anyone's flight that close. That sounds like a sabotage to me. Why would you book dozens, if not hundreds of guests with lots of time? And then with me, you cut it to the point where if my flight even got delayed for 30, 40 minutes, that I just wouldn't be able to be on the podcast. And even if I landed on time, it still would have been insanely close. I had no idea they had a rule that you had to be there an hour early in order to be on the show. And to be honest, I don't even believe that they're telling the truth, because I think if James O'Keefe or Jack Pasabic or somebody like that, landed and could have got there on time, I don't think that they would have made them like, oh, you can't come on the podcast because you got to be there an hour early. That sounds like bullshit. And also, it's not like I was driving there myself where it's a security issue. They sent a driver. So their driver would have drove me to their little shitty beanie bunker. And like, there is no security breach. So I've never liked him, but also I went to confront Tim and just have a conversation with him and be respectful if he was respectful. But if he talked condescendingly to me, I would have stood up for myself because I'm not a beta. But they left me hanging in Washington for a couple of days. Didn't had the shittiest customer service. Were telling me, oh, just treat it like a layover now that you can't come on the show. So yeah, I mean, I definitely have a bias against him because I wanted to have an in-person conversation, and his booker told me that they made an error, that they just booked it too close, and because I had a slight rain delay that I just couldn't make it on time. But they've never done that before because everybody else flies in a day earlier, way earlier, which I could have flown in at any time. It's not like I had to fly. They picked the flight. They chose the flight. I got delayed for like an hour. And then I landed on time an hour before the podcast, and they said I got to be there an hour early, so I can't go on the podcast. So yeah, I wouldn't say I hate Tim Pool, but I know he's a piece of garbage. Out of any podcast I've ever done, I've been on dozens of podcasts. I've worked with people like Andy Frisella from First Form, who's amazing. Dude, Andy's had to cancel a podcast with me before, and he goes, dude, I'm so sorry. I'll fly you back. And I go, can I just stay at a hotel and go on tomorrow? And he goes, yeah, is that okay? I go, of course, bro. Just let me, like, Andy Frisella from First Form is the nicest guy. I've talked to Jim Brewer. I've talked to Roseanne. I've talked to dozens of people. Tim Pool's staff was one of the unprofessional, douchey, rude, insane. Like they're the most disgusting people. I like Cassandra Fairbanks if she's still there, but before her was another woman there. And I see this woman on Twitter, and she's like always like spurging out like a generic Zionist drone. So I just find it very unlikely that this was some spontaneous coincidence. What are the chances that you book every guest with enough time for leeway, but with me, you just make a mistake to not book me a day before, or not book me earlier that morning? You're like, I've never cut it that close. Sorry, I didn't even think of that. He fired Cassandra or something, someone said. I don't know what he did with Cassandra, but she was cool. But after Tim did that, I didn't even want to go back on their show because it's like, I respect my time. So if I fly to go on someone's podcast, they basically completely sabotage it, won't see me for the next 2 or 3 days. Why would I waste my time flying in the middle of nowhere? Just like, I don't want to talk to him anymore. I don't like him. I don't trust him. His staff is garbage. He's got the rudest customer service ever. They lied to me. Like he's a cornball. I was on Jim's podcast, remote wise, but also I met Jim. I went to a comedy show and like hung out with him backstage. Jim is everything you would think he is. Jim Brewer's awesome. Really nice guy. Very authentic, very chill. Tim is the worst out of anybody I've dealt with. And Tim didn't even reach out to me. Like they sabotaged and canceled my podcast. Tim never answered my message. Like he had one of his employees be like, just treat it like a layover. Just treat it like a layover. I'm not here for a layover. I'm here to do the podcast. Well, he needs you there an hour early for security reasons. So sorry, you just go to a hotel. Okay. Can I come tomorrow? No, we're packed. I watched the show tomorrow. There's one guy. Nobody knows who he is. I don't even know his name. I told him, I said, I don't need the whole show to be about me since I'm out here. Can I just get 10 minutes on the microphone? Like, can I just come tomorrow or the next day or the next day? I'll stay for 3 days. Let me know. I'll come out. You can make it all about this other person. Just give me 10 minutes. They go, no, we can't do that. Dude, Tim, they purposely sabotage me. Tim knows that he's a little disgusting, festering beanie gremlin, and that I would have talked about Zionist influence in America. I would have talked about the speech laws. And I think that his booker purposely probably sabotaged it because she probably didn't want me to talk about that. To be honest, I don't see any other explanation of like why would you cut it so close and admit you've never done that before? Why would you admit that this is the first time you've ever booked a flight that close? It's the first time you ever booked a flight that close. I was delayed for an hour, and because I was delayed for an hour and landed, now I can't go on the show because I would make it on time, but you don't want to cut it too close because the guest needs to be there an hour early. There's no way if Jack Basabic or James O'Keefe or somebody like that landed that they'd be like, oh, don't come today. Don't come tomorrow. Don't come the next day. It's over. Then why did you waste my time? he's a horrible, horrible person. He's a coward. He's a bad podcaster. He just rots people's brains. Anytime he has a good guest on, he speaks over them like he's like, the Matrix controller that doesn't want them to talk about what's really going on. And out of customer service that I've ever dealt with any podcast or conservative company, he's by far the worst, by far the rudest, by far the most bratty. He's disgusting. He's a bad person. He's a bad news host. He's a fraud. So yeah, it is a little, it is a little personal, but I take it out by just making funny jokes about him. But yeah, it's not some like random thing that I'm just like, I don't like him because he has a podcast. I don't like him because he's a horrible, horrible person. Someone said, Anomaly, thank you so much. This was the best money spent exposing how disingenuous you are. Do you like, what's your solution, my guy? You said you're a proud Jewish Zionist, right? And what, you want to pretend like there's no Zionist or Jewish influence in American politics? You want to act like Trump's donors don't care about Israel, even though everyone knows they do. You don't want to ever even acknowledge the fact that I'm talking about there's an international definition of anti-Semitism being passed into American law by Democrats and Republicans that's being passed into Argentina, Germany, France, multiple countries. You don't want to admit it's weird that people get arrested in foreign countries for speaking about Israel. We're talking about historical events, and you just want to lie and cry. Someone said Tim got scared to have Anomaly on. I mean, I can't think of another explanation of why all that happened. I would love to hear it, but I think, and I'll say this too. This is just me being honest. If you look at certain people and how they like maneuver their podcast, like look at who Tim Pool's co-hosts are. He doesn't ever have on anyone super smart. Like he likes to be surrounded. I consider Tim like a gremlin. He looks like a gremlin. And he likes other gremlins around him. Like he likes people that are unimpressive. He likes people that he can have leverage over, that he could talk down to. Because if you notice, Tim is like hyper rude to his guests. He's always talking, oh, dude, I love disagreeing with people, but he's just not a good guy. Like he talks so condescendingly to his co-hosts. Like he likes to have people that'll put up with that. So I feel like, I'm sure he knows the difference between somebody who's like smarter than him, funnier than him, more honest than him, more impressive than him. Like I'm sure he doesn't want to be in the room with that type of person. He'd rather surround himself by less impressive people that he can manipulate and control and treat like garbage, because that wouldn't fly with anyone that wasn't a total beta or like didn't need Tim. Like a lot of people don't have platforms. So it's like Tim letting them be on their show or Tim letting them be a co-host is like a huge opportunity, so they'll put up with Tim being a terrible person and a douchebag just to like have a, like, oh dude, I'm going to get millions of views off this. I'm going to build my career, which is understandable. But at the same time, it's just like, I wouldn't allow that. Like I would be nice to Tim, but I'm not going to let him talk condescendingly to me about a topic he's wrong about just to shut me up. Like it wouldn't work. So it's like, I'm sure him and his staff probably, who knows what happened, but I just find it weird. Everything about interacting with them. Like I landed on my plane and they're like, just treat it like a layover. Sorry, we can't have you on. I was like, but it's like 7:00 and the show's at 8 or whatever it was. And they're like, yeah, but you need to be here 2 hours early or an hour early in order to be on the show. It's too late. It's just, but why would you book my flight so close if I had to be there an hour early? Like I barely would have made it even if the flight was on time. And they're like, well, honestly, we've never had this issue before because we always book people the day before. Why didn't you book me the day before then? If everyone flies out a day before, I don't know. I made a mistake. This never happened to me booking wise. What? Why would you make a mistake? Like, why would that happen with me, but no one else? Like, that's just random. You just never thought to book me a day before or in the morning, but you've never done that before. Something's going on, And I'm not going to say too much, but it's like, I do know things, and I do know, I'm not even going to say it just out of respect, but I wouldn't rule out that somebody said something and or like tried to finesse me out of that spot. when I was going to be on Roseanne's podcast a few years ago, I was told that Michael Malice hit her up and was like, don't have him on or whatever. Like he's an anti-Semite or whatever. And Michael Malice, his whole persona is like, I'm an anarchist. I don't believe in free speech. Yet he's basically trying to blacklist me from a podcast of somebody that I had a friendship with for years. I've known Roseanne for years. And he basically tried to snake me out of that opportunity. And I was told about that. If I would have got snaked out of that opportunity and never actually knew Roseanne and her family, so they obviously didn't listen because I knew them, I would have never known that it was Michael Malice that did that. You understand what I'm saying? Like this type of stuff happens. I've never told someone not to have someone on their podcast. Like that doesn't even exist in my reality. Who am I to baby another person? And Michael Malice, by the way, he looks like a literal snake. Like he literally looks like a serpent. He looks like a little tiny like garden serpent, you know, because he's like a little weirdo midget guy. But it's just like, these are the games that people play. So I'm just supposed to assume that on Tim's show, they've been doing this to me for years, guys. And by they, you could think of whoever you want it is. I started talking about the speech laws and they started telling everybody. I had a friend who worked at Blaze TV. He told me that they were telling him not to have me on the podcast in 2019. They said Anomaly's far right. Anomaly's an anti-Semite. I've been blacklisted behind the scenes for 5-6 years. Some people didn't listen to them, but other people did. So, you know, I don't like, this is what Zionists do. This is what neocons do. This is what the Israeli lobby does. They pretend like they don't exist. They call everybody an anti-Semite and they try to rig everything for people not to know what I'm talking about. Because if I went on these podcasts and I told people in 2019 what was going on, and I got invited on Fox News to tell people what was going on, conservatives and Republicans would agree with me. Republicans don't believe in speech laws. Republicans don't even know there's anti-Semitism laws being passed into America. So all these little weasels and snakes behind the scenes are rigging it so you only see Zionists on Fox News and Newsmax, and they don't allow these opinions out. That's why they're so mad at Tucker Carlson. Why are they so mad at Tucker Carlson? Because Tucker Carlson is more popular than everyone, yet he's talking about this stuff. They've tried for 6 and 5 years. And to be honest, no disrespect to the late, great Charlie Kirk, God bless his soul, but him and Ben Shapiro were kind of like those type of guys in 2019 too, trying to gatekeep and not allow anybody to talk about these conversations when they weren't talking about them. So it's like, I think Charlie had a change of heart in his later years and he realized that he wanted to speak about it a little more, but he didn't in 2019 or 2020. So it's like, people don't even know this stuff. And I don't say it from a place of jealousy or envy or anything. It's just like, if I'm competing to try to speak the truth to the American people, to save our country from speech laws and debt and all of these disgraceful things, and the entire industry is telling you that they're truthers and they're the truth and but they're behind the scenes trying to prevent anybody from even hearing about me. And then nobody knows what's going on because they won't let me on these shows in order to tell people, because they know that people would agree with me because I'm right. This is why this is the only reason I ever even mention anybody else. I don't care what they have. I'm not jealous or envious. I'm very happy. I'm very blessed. I'm very grateful. But it's like, at the end of the day, I know why people are 6 years late on this topic. Trump has been Trump has been for H-1B visas for 6 years now. Everybody's acting like it just happened 3 months ago. I made a video in 2019 saying that Trump was pro H-1B visa. No one else did. To her credit, Laura Ingraham on Fox News, she did. And to be honest, she had me on her show one time. So thank you, Laura. I appreciate it. But it's like, besides Laura Ingraham, no one was grilling Trump about this. So it's like, when you have 99% of the industry not talking about something and then actively trying to blacklist people who will talk about it, it's a giant cover-up. It's one big cover-up. So that's why I'm passionate to talk not just about Tim, but about the conservative industry. It's like one big cover-up, and everyone acts stupid and plays dumb, and they don't say, like, if I ever told someone, hey, don't have this person on the podcast, I would say it publicly. Like, there's not a difference between what I'm telling you and what I'm doing privately. I'm never going to tell someone not to talk to somebody. And I've had this happen, not just from that, but I had somebody call me, and I'm not going to say who. I had somebody call me in like 2018 or something and be like, hey, can you tell this person they're fighting over my donors and donors and donors? And I was like, bro, never call me again about this. First of all, I don't have donors. I don't go to donor meetings. I actually work. I actually do journalism, right? I'm earning my money. I'm not just sucking up GOP money and doing nothing with it. Like, that's what you're doing. So if that's what you're doing, I didn't even know you were doing that. Go do that because you're useless. You're a plant, or you're just you know what I'm saying? You're nothing. I earn my money. I work hard for my money. So I don't call me about your little donor problems. Second of all, don't call me bitching about someone else over donors. I'm not your manager. I'm not. This is not high school. We're at the lunch table and Susie said something to Becky. Grow up, you freaking loser. You know what I'm saying? Like people don't even know who people are because they're not going to get on their podcast and be like, I go to donor meetings and fight over donors with other influencers. You wouldn't like them. You'd be like, ew. You know, so everybody like it's like I really know what's going on, and it's like it's not what people think. Oh, I'm for free speech, but behind the scenes they're blacklisting everyone. I want people to platform people, but don't have him on. Don't have him on. That's why they're spiraling now. They did it in the shadows for years, if not decades, and they never wanted people to know they were doing it because if you ever knew they were doing it, you wouldn't like or trust them. So now that Tucker and Candace and people of this, like, you know, they're making it obvious. That's why they're so mad. Tucker's another one where it's like, I don't agree with everything he's ever said. Candace, you could say, I don't like this or I don't like that. But the real reason people are so mad at them is they're taking an issue they were trying to do behind the scenes to be sneaky about it and making it like, hey, everybody, we're more popular than them. And we're going to tell you what's really going on. That's the reality of it. I knew I could never work at Republican media as soon as I started talking about the Israeli speech laws. And I knew that everyone that worked there only was allowed to work there because they wouldn't talk about it. So what do you think I think about my other colleagues that wouldn't talk about it until a year ago? Everybody does what they want at their own time, but don't ask me to be someone else that I'm not, because I was that guy 5-6 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what took people so long. But I know that if I knew it, that they knew it. I think a lot of people prioritized money and connections over the truth for a long time until they realized I have the money, I have the connections. I don't need the machine anymore I don't need the machine anymore. I can make money telling the truth. Okay, that's cool. That's good. Glad you're doing it now, right? Everybody has to do it at a different time. That's when everything changes. But don't try to compare me to other, because I did it when I had everything to lose. I did it when I had no money. I did it when my savings account had nothing in it. You know what I'm saying? I turned down or at least got myself out of opportunities and realized that I could never get them. In 2019, I had like nothing. And if I did it for nothing, then I would you know what I'm saying? If you won't do that when you don't have anything, then you'll do anything. So it's not like, oh, I had a lot of money saved, so I just did this because I could afford it. I couldn't afford it at the time, but it's not about affording it or not. It's like, this is the path of truth. If it becomes something great, if not, oh, well. And to be honest, I think COVID was, in a weird way, something that I reported really accurately that most people didn't. So even though they tried to blacklist me in 2019, I had a massive competitive edge in 2020 and 2021 over all these people because they didn't seem to be able to tell the truth about the pandemic. And everybody was on their computer and everybody wanted to know. And everybody was realizing that they were losing everything over vaccine mandates and mask mandates, and their kids were being abused over all this nonsense. So, it was like a beautiful comeback story where it's like they tried to bury me, but it didn't work. They tried to bury the topic that I was talking about, but that didn't work. Now it's mainstream and everybody knows it. I'm not taking credit for it. The reason it's so popular now talking about Israeli influence is because it's just the reality of the situation. I didn't start it. There were people that noticed it decades before me. It's just like, if it's real and it's true, it's going to age well. If you say mass immigration is amazing and I say it's not so amazing, and 40 years later, it's not so amazing, everyone's going to be on the side of truth because it's obvious now. You know what I'm saying? Like, the people who said this 30 years ago were not popular, but now their speeches are aging well. It's called aging well. It's called the truth stands the test of time. Someone said as soon as Tucker went off the script, they fired him. And as soon as Tucker went off Fox News, he started being more honest. As soon as Matt Gaetz started being more honest is when he was out of Congress. people know what I know. They just don't feel like they're in the position to say something. I don't know what type of pressure they have on them in politics or the corporations, but I can imagine, so it's like, do you think it's a coincidence that Tucker got even more based when he left Fox News? He was good on Fox News. Don't get it twisted. I liked him there, but I'm just saying it's like, it's not a coincidence that everyone does this as soon as they're away from these corporations and stuff. It's because you can't do it there. They won't let you. You don't think I could do what a lot of these other people do? You don't think if I had a documentary team and a film crew that I could be, you know what I'm saying? Like, I've competed with these people with nothing. Michael Knowles and Andrew Klavan have had like a multi-million-dollar production company behind them for a decade, and they're not even, no one cares about them. They're like completely irrelevant. You know what I'm saying? If I could get 1 billion views and have millions of followers with a $0 budget and no production team, you don't think I could do what these people do? No, Michael Knowles is allowed to be there because he's not really saying anything. And I guarantee you, if Michael Knowles ever breaks away from the Daily Wire and Matt Walsh ever breaks away from the Daily Wire, they'll probably be saying a lot of the stuff I'm saying, Andrew Klavan probably never will, because I think he has a massive ethnic bias on the topic, and that's clear if you listen to him. But as far as these other people, it's like they're not superstars and heroes. They're people that are good enough at not saying stuff in order to get positions, and they could say certain things, but certain things are pretty much off the table. So it is what it is, but none of this stuff is like coincidental. Someone said Candace Owens has gone way too far. I mean, I'm not going to tell people what's too far and what's too not, but I haven't listened for a month. Like I said, I don't think Tim Pool's right about saying she's responsible for the election. I think that's fake. But as far as what she's doing, I don't feel like watching anymore. That's all I'm going to say. It's nothing personal. We'll see. But it's like the style that she was going with at first. I think the first few weeks it was appealing to me. There was some really interesting stuff. The last couple ones I saw and like kind of seeing how it was going, I kind of lost interest, and it wasn't for me, and it wasn't something I wanted to really get attach myself with, because she's doing and saying things that, I don't know. I think a lot of stuff is on point. I think some stuff I'm not really sure. And like you're saying, I hear your perspective. Like it's not for me. But like I said, time will tell all, and my opinion doesn't really matter. So I'm not trying to poo-poo anybody. It's just my personal preference. And I'm definitely, I would say, like a pattern recognizer, and I'm very sensitive. So, I see things different than people at some points, and that's okay. I don't, it was like when Tucker and Candace and like Fuentes were all beefing. It's like, I'm not getting in, that's like their thing. I see what they're all saying, but I don't feel compelled to like pick a side, because it's not high school, I don't have a problem with any of them. I'm not fighting with any of them. I'm not getting personal with any of them. If they want to do that, that's on them. With this sort of stuff, I think I just like, I'll give you one example, and I'm only doing it just to provide a baseline, because when Vivek came out, pretty much everybody trusted him, wanted him to be the vice president, and believed him. I never believed Vivek for a single day. Before I knew who he was, I didn't trust the way he sounded. Then I looked up who he was and found out he was a pharmaceutical billionaire. And then I was like, I'll never trust this guy. This was months before he was even popular. I was like, he talks like Obama. He talks like a phony. I know the difference between authentic and just, and it's like, oh, he's a pharmaceutical billionaire. Someone said, did my super chat about Candace's father get erased? I have no idea. I didn't see it though. Sorry. But with that being said, like, I can't tell you what everyone else is doing, but I could tell you why I didn't trust Vivek, why I didn't believe him, why I gave him a journalistic interview and no one else did. But I can't really fathom why everyone else didn't do that. My best guess is that most people, they just like to hang out, and they just are easily flattered. And you know what I'm saying? Like, Vivek is really good at flattery and stuff. So I was right about that. Now most people agree with me, but they weren't at the time. So the way I do journalism and analysis and other people is different. I'm not sitting here playing the moral high ground, but sometimes people want me to attach myself at the hip with the way other people do stuff. but I don't want to because they've never done exactly what I've done. Sometimes they've done better. Sometimes they've done worse. It's not a competition, but it's like, if I talked about this in 2019 and you didn't talk about it until 2025, I don't understand why. Or 2024. How did you miss that for 5 years? It makes no sense to me. If and then other things people are spot on about, but I guess what I notice is like, how do people and this goes for anybody. How do people act when they make a journalistic error? When I saw the Calvin Coolidge Project guy make a journalistic error about Candace, he wouldn't retract it. He just doubled down on it. And I was like, I'll never trust this guy again, because it doesn't matter if he likes Candace or not to me, but he's wrong about what he's saying, and he doesn't care. And then when it comes to others as well, even people on my side, if they make a mistake and they double down on it and they don't admit it, it's just like, I'm not going to trust it again. It doesn't mean that everything's wrong or right. It's not true. It's just like, if you can point out that I've made a factual journalistic error, I will retract it, apologize, and try to make sure I never do it again. If somebody makes a mistake and then doesn't care because their ego and they feel like their sense of purpose is more important than their accuracy, to me, that's just something that I can't, it doesn't appeal. It no longer appeals to me, And the reason I do my own show is because I don't see out there what I like personally. So, that goes for everyone, but it's like, there's a lot of things being said by a lot of people that I just don't agree with, and I don't think they're doing it right, and I don't believe it, but I don't have such a big ego that I'm going to make some big stand like, this is what I believe. Time will tell all. If I'm right about Vivek and everybody's wrong, okay, wait 2 years, and then you could say you were right. If there's something going on between this and that, and these people are fighting, and I'm not picking a side because I don't see myself in either of the side, time will tell. There's no rush. It's nothing I need to tell people, but I do everything for a reason. And yeah, with all this stuff, I just, like I said, I'm not, something's off to me. Mickey said Candace's father owned a company in charge of janitor services. What does that have to do with anything? Security? I don't know what you're trying to say. And I don't know what SH is, but I don't know. To me, that doesn't really mean anything, but I don't get what you're saying. SD. Someone said no JD, no Vivek. They're going to run somebody that sucks, but people just need to even if you vote for JD Vance, just know who he is. Stop this hero worship, if it's like Kamala versus JD Vance and you think JD Vance makes more sense, I'm not opposed to that. One of them's going to win whether you vote or not. That's the reality of politics. But are you going to constantly get tricked and it's the left, it's the left, it's the left? That's the name of the game. Whether if Kamala gets in, nothing's going to go your way. If JD Vance gets in, also most things are not going to go your way, and they're going to do sneaky stuff for their owners or donors, and they're not going to tell you about it. So it's up to people to just pay attention and notice these things and not get so drawn into the drama of it. And whether it's intentional or not, in a lot of these topics, the drama creates the false, you know what I'm saying? I see how it manipulates people. It's like, if you don't agree with Trump, are you a left winger? No, you're brainwashed. Oh, Operation Warp Speed saved the world. No, it didn't. You're brainwashed. Oh, if you're conservative, I hate you because I'm a libtard. You're brainwashed. You know what I'm saying? I said something factual about Charlie Kirk, and someone said, oh, you're getting into Candace Owens conspiracy theories. You're brainwashed. Regardless of what you think of what Candace is saying, not everything is related to her versus Turning Point, but because she's such a big star and she's talking about it, now people can't think straight. They're like, either you're team them or team them. Okay. I don't care what team you join, but people don't seem to be able to see anything. Everything's a game to them. Everything's there's things I could say about what Candace is saying and Turning Point. And, I could just speak the truth and be honest about it, but it's not all one big them versus them to me. I get it that she's calling them out. They don't like it. Sure. There's something there. There's something to be talked about and analyzed, but the reality of everything around that topic now is not in sole possession of Candace or Turning Point. there's other aspects of it and other points and other people that can have an opinion. And, are you team Tucker or team Mark Levin? Well, if I had to choose, I would choose team Tucker, but there's a lot of things Tucker says that honestly, like most of what Tucker says, I agree with, but I've heard him go on rants and say stuff and do things that I don't agree with and I wouldn't say, so it's like what I'm saying has nothing to do with what Tucker's saying. A lot of what Tucker's saying are things that I said way earlier than Tucker. I'm not inspired by him. In some ways I am, but not on these topics. He's like 6 years behind me on these topics, but it's not a competition. I'm just saying it's like people can't like fathom, are you team this or team that? Can I just think for myself and have an opinion and, do my own shows? Or do I have to like, if you don't go to January 6th, you're not a patriot. Well, that ended up being a Fed trap. And I believe it was to set up people who would have been against vaccine mandates and mask mandates. Think about this. And you don't have to agree because this is just a hypothetical, but most people who are against vaccines and vaccine mandates and mask mandates, most of them were Trump supporters, right? Because that's just the reality of it. Trump, in my opinion, didn't represent these people because he's selling vaccines. He's saying they're a great achievement. He's saying they rushed him. He's flip-flopping on mandates. Like he's not as strong as any of his supporters who were like totally against this stuff, right? But then they all go to the vaccine man rally at the Capitol because they're convinced that the election was stolen for the vaccine man, even though every election's stolen because the donors control both sides, including Trump. So even when Trump wins, you get a lockdown. So that's the stolen election nobody seems to ever talk about, which is the most important one because it doesn't even matter who wins really. So then it's like, okay, everybody goes to the vaccine man rally at the Capitol. And then all of the people that were protesting vaccine and mask mandates get set up and in trouble with the FBI. Now they just successfully wiped out the opposition to mandates as Joe Biden gets in office. So I'm not saying this is necessarily factual because, like I say, I try to be accurate if I can't fully prove something. But my best thought, like seeing the way these people operate, I think they set people up in order to kneecap and completely wipe out the anti-mandate movement and the anti-lockdown movement. So it was completely gutted. And then Trump just passes the baton to Joe Biden to go persecute you. People don't want to think that way because it's like, oh, no way. But it's like, to me, that makes more sense than believing Trump is a hero and that the election was stolen in Venezuela. It's like, this is all like low IQ, like Trump slop, Do I think it was a fair election? No. But do I think Trump is an innocent victim to why it wasn't a fair election? No. Trump is responsible for it. The CARES Act made it not a fair election. The money Trump gave to Democrat states and the power that he gave them in May of 2020, Trump was complimenting Gavin Newsom. As Gavin Newsom is locking down my state, acting like a complete insane dictator, Trump is saying Gavin Newsom and me are getting along. Dude, this guy's in on it. You know what I'm saying? Like he's not some hero that got the election stolen from him. The reason that the election was unfair is because he signed all the bills and gave all of the Democrats the power to do it. And then he acts all fake and stupid. Oh, I don't know what happened. You did it. You signed the bills. You gave him power. You were giving Gavin Newsom thumbs up. You were complimenting him. You were more mad at Governor Kemp for trying to open up than you were Gavin Newsom for keeping lockdown for months. I remember because I was reporting on it every day. So it's like all these idiot Trump influencers, like he got it stolen from him. The election wasn't fair, but Trump is complicit. Trump is complicit in the lockdown, the vaccine socialism, every aspect of it. So that was the difference between me and all them. I didn't get set up because I knew Trump was in on it. They got set up because they believe in the Pied Piper. They march with the Pied Piper into the water. And a lot of people who got set up are now realizing that because they're like, holy crap. I risked my life and career for a guy that literally wouldn't even spit on me to put a fire out. Mickey with the super chat, he said, I'm trying to tell you Candace's father owned a corporation in charge of security. Who cares though? I don't like at a school. I hear you, but like, what does that have to do with anything? I don't get it. Oh, I get what you're saying. A specific school, are you saying? The one that like was really famous? Is that what you're trying to say? I would have to fact check that, but I'm not gonna, speak about it without that. But I think I get what you're trying to say, but I don't, I'm not going to report or speak on something that I can't prove or say. Someone said, I feel like Trump was sold the goods and pushed into a corner with the COVID thing. Yeah, but here's what I'm trying to say. You feel that way because you want to think Trump's on your side. If you look at the proof, Trump met with Bill Gates in 2018. Bill Gates told the press that Trump tried to give him a White House position and that he got Trump super interested in a universal flu vaccine. In 2019, September, Trump passed an executive order for a universal flu vaccine. So if you're following it, Trump took a meeting in 2018. Bill Gates told him something. And then in 2019, Trump passed it through executive order. Trump didn't get tricked on all this stuff. He's in on it. He's completely in on it, unapologetically, doesn't care, doesn't regret it because he's fine with it. If he wasn't, he wouldn't be cutting Pfizer deals right now. He's in on it. You want to feel like Trump's got tricked because you want to believe Trump isn't in on it. But the more you think that way, the more he keeps tricking you on loop because he doesn't care. He's completely in on it. If he wasn't in on it, he'd be rallying his troops to vote out Lindsey Graham and the neocons. Instead, he's elevating Lindsey Graham and the neocons and trying to weed out any actual person that doesn't take money from mega corporations and donors as much as Trump does. He's obviously in on it. I feel that he got tricked with the vaccine because you're ignoring report. I'm one of the only ones who did that reporting. He's not this spontaneous victim to all this stuff. He's the father of the vaccine. He's the one that pushed it. And he worked on vaccine stuff for years before the pandemic. Factually, he passed an executive order for vaccines 6 months before the pandemic. He didn't get overwhelmed by the virus it's all stupid fake narratives to get you not to realize that the real stolen election is even if you vote for Trump, you get a lockdown. Even if Trump wins an election in 2024, nothing changes that much besides the border. That's the real stolen election. All the people who don't talk about that, they're just like providing cover for the fact that the GOP is not who anyone thinks it is. There's no way to vote yourself out of something where Trump and the opposition are fake. And that's the reality of politics. So who cares about stupid fake reporting about everything, It's like, and this is like my competition. It's like everyone wants to, everybody wants to like talk about all this stuff. And that's the reason where it's like, I guess my main concern is not what someone's saying on a podcast. I don't care what everyone else is doing. I'm not following everyone else, regardless of the topic. It's like, yeah, everyone else is always doing something else. That's the whole name of the game. It's like, well, they said this and they're doing that. Okay. Well, this is what I'm saying. Because I did the reporting on Trump and Bill Gates in 2020. No one else did, and they still won't. Like everyone else is telling their audience things that have no backbone to it. Like, I think this. I think a lot of things too. Sometimes I sit around and think I'm Batman, but then I'm like, wait, I'm a news analyst. I'm a journalist. If I'm going to build a story, it has to be based on facts, not how I feel. Yeah, I'd love to feel that Trump's fighting the deep state, but he is the deep state. I'd love to think Trump's fighting the neocons, but he is a neocon. I'd love to think that Trump wants to make Congress good, but he said in an interview, he thinks Israel used to literally control Congress and it's bad that they don't. He's literally just working for Israel, essentially. He's trying to rig Congress for Israel. He's trying to get rid of every GOP politician who doesn't work for Israel. That's what Trump's doing. That's the reality of it. I want to believe that he's just this innocent victim who got tricked by Dr. Fauci. And I want to believe I have wings and I'm a dragon. And I want to believe that QAnon's going to lead us to the mat. No, he's not. Wake up. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so obvious. Someone said, I thought I was voting for the right person 3 times because it felt real. There's a debate to be had on that topic, but this is my personal opinion. I think 5% of things change when you vote and 95% doesn't. This is just a made up statistic. If you feel compelled to vote to change the 5 or 10% that you could change, I'm not mad at you. If you think I don't want to vote because that's not enough and both parties are sold out, I get that. If you believe in the theory of like, if the other side wins, it'll help us more, I'm not I don't care anymore about any of that. Right. But some people on both sides of the equation, they want to say you can't criticize Trump if you didn't vote, right? There's some people that say if you didn't vote, you can't talk about any of this or take credit for it. Not really. You know what I'm saying? Like, I voted, so I could say whatever I want. And then you have the other side, and they say, well, if you voted, you can't talk about anything because I didn't vote and I'm so special. Your ego is just bigger than mine. I don't think my vote matters. I voted in California. It doesn't matter. It didn't change anything. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? My local vote sort of mattered, but it's just like it doesn't matter. You know, and it's not going to change. So it's like, you think my vote mattered? I don't even think my vote really mattered. So it's like, it's a personal choice of what message you want to send and why you want to send it. And I don't know why people on both sides, they want to just spend 5 years arguing about it. To me, it's not that interesting. What's interesting is both parties are sold out, and whether people vote or not, it's going to take, it's like there's certain people that are critical of Israel, that they think that Christianity is a fake religion and that everybody's just like worshiping a Jew and they're stupid, right? If you believe that, that's on you. But if you think you're going to make any sort of impact in the world, and I'm not saying you can't talk about it if you truly believe that, but I'm just saying, like, you're going to need a coalition of Christians, and there's tens and hundreds of millions of Christians who agree with you on certain topics now. So if your idea is like, let me isolate all them and just talk shit to them, even if they agree with me and can make a coalition with me, you're not doing anything. It's like a libertarian who gets 1% of the vote. So it's like, whether you voted or didn't vote, why would you just want to just talk about that for 5 years? Like, I guess some people, to me, it's like they don't want to win. They don't want to form a coalition that makes sense. They literally just want to like act like they're so much smarter than everyone and bitch into the void for no avail. It's like, if I'm a Christian, but if I wasn't Christian and I thought that Christianity was a fake religion, which I don't, but if I did, and I was critical on the Israel topic, I wouldn't just sit and bitch at Christians all day about Christianity, because I would look at it and be like, there's no way I could ever be successful if I isolate literally like over half of the world and like, you know, a majority of people who care about this stuff. There are plenty of Christians and Catholics, like, you know, that are heavily on your side now. Why would you want to throw them away? It's almost just like, you know, strategically, I just don't get it. Like, I understand making videos about it and talking about it, but I don't understand harping on it and just picking fights with people over it every 2 seconds. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And it's like the Zionist side, they treat everyone like garbage and wonder why nobody's on their side anymore. It's like, I don't get what everyone's thinking, but that's the world we live in. And, you know, like the GOP, Democrat, all this stuff is like hanging by a thread. Everyone's acting retarded. And, you know, every 4 years, one side wins when they're not empowered. Then, you know, it's like, it's never going to end. You know, I can only control what I'm doing, but I can't control how what everyone else says. I mean, I think if you believe something's true, it's always good to report on it and be honest about it. But I just, like, I don't know. I think just like making it the focal point. Like, I got people that they literally just like, even though I've been one of the most consistent voices calling out Trump and the GOP, even though even though I've been honest about it the entire time, even when I voted last election, I was honest about how little it mattered, but at the same time, it was going to change a few things. Like, I'm right. It changed a few things, but not everything. People still want to just argue about it for 4 years. And then there's people on the Trump side. Anytime I call out the GOP, they're like, are you going to run for Congress? You watch Greg Gutfeld every day. Is Greg Gutfeld going to run for Congress? How come you believe him, but not me? But we're both not running for Congress. Like, it doesn't make any sense. These people like other podcasts. They listen to other news influencers. They think the news is important to breaking the propaganda of the world. Yet with me, they have a different set of standards because they don't like what I'm saying. So now I have to run for People have been telling me since I was like 28, if you want to criticize Trump, you got to run for president. You can't even be, I don't even think I could be president next time. I'm not old enough. You know what I'm saying? It's not even like possible. Maybe next election or the next election I could run for president. But it's like, you've been telling me to do something that's illegal for 8 years because you don't want to hear my journalistic reporting. Run for president then. Dude, it's like I was like 30 years old and you guys are yelling at me. So it's like, you know, everyone has their own little thing that they like to get caught up on. And it is what it is, but I can only control what I do. I can't control, nor do I want to, other people's actions at this point. I just find it so funny, the things that people like to hang on and like make a big deal about. Mindtap 100 said, people hate Candace so much that they take the time to slander and project so much hate towards her. Tim was blaming her for completely unrelated things on the topic. She was just trying to figure out who killed her friend, WTF. I talked about it earlier. Thanks for the super chat. Sorry if you're late. You probably didn't see it. But I mentioned that earlier where, if you can't talk about her without lying about something else, which like 95, 99% of them do, I don't understand it. Yeah, it makes no sense to blame her for the election. It's not her fault. She has nothing to do with the election. So why does Tim feel the need to like emotionally lie about that? And like, why can't Tim just say, I don't agree with the way she's doing her reporting with the Charlie thing, right? That has, to me, at least, I'm not to every, some people would not like that anyway. But to me, that has more merit than lying about something completely. Like you can't start, I don't like the way Candace is doing her reporting with a provable lie that she's responsible for the election. Now everything you're saying has no merit because you're like, she's the reason the GOP is going to lose. Literally, no. Literally, that's the dumbest thing I've heard all week. So now everything else you say in this rant just seems retarded. If he started it out and said, listen, I think Candace did some good work. I think she's uncovered some things, but I think that, her daily shows are, she's reaching a little bit and some things are not that accurate. And I think she should, really think about it. That to me, that hits a little different than like starting out with a pathological lie. Personally, I would never trust anything Tim said anyway, so it really wouldn't change for me because Tim's a retard. But, someone actually credible and authentic had a criticism of Candace that was valid and accurate and made sense, then it would hold more weight. But all the people, like you were saying, or at least most of them, not all of them, but everybody that seems to hate Candace, like they just can't tell the truth, and it's like, it's because it's like Trump versus liberals. In my opinion, liberals are wrong about almost everything. Trump is wrong about a lot, but Trump makes more sense than liberals. With Candace, I'm not saying she's Trump. I'm just using that as an analogy because I don't think that's a proper analogy. I think she's way more honest than Trump is at this point. But it's like the people that are challenging her are some of the most dishonest people in politics. They don't want to talk about the influence in the Republican Party. They all cry about Tucker Carlson. They don't like anybody that's mentioning that stuff. So it's like they're creating this proxy war of her versus them. And like I said, I don't want to take part in it because it's getting very personal. It's getting very dramatic. It's getting very not about me. So it's not my business. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know. I've learned my lesson, and this is no disrespect to anybody, but I've just learned my lesson of like, I know what I'm saying. I know why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I don't feel the need to attach my bandwagon to other people, because if I ever would have done that in my career, I would have been in the wrong space, and people don't even really know this, but if you go back to me from 2016 to 2020, even when I gave Trump favorable reporting, I never wore a MAGA hat. I never called myself MAGA. I became a Republican voter. I voted for Republicans, I think, in 2018 and 2020. But I never said I was MAGA because I was like, this isn't a game for me. I'm not just going to yell, build a wall. I'm a news analyst and a journalist, and I'm trying to be accurate. So if what I'm saying goes in favor of Trump, then that's because I believe it to be true, not because I never followed everybody. I never followed anybody even when I supported Trump more. I never followed anybody when I was critical of Trump. And I'm not going to hitch my bandwagon to people that didn't do the reporting I did in 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024. We all did our own thing. It's not like everything, like I'm not Tucker. Tucker's not me. I'm not asking him to be, but it's like, I don't, I'm not hitching it doesn't make sense to me. And it never made sense to me to hitch my entire bandwagon as just a fan of somebody or like a defender of someone completely. Like I've defended a lot of people. I've defended Trump. I've defended Candace. I've defended Tucker. I've defended a lot of people off of morality because I believed it to be right and still do. But it's like, it's coming from a place of this is what I think. Let me speak it, not let me live vicariously through someone else for 5 months and just coattail everything they're doing. It doesn't, I've seen that not work out too many times. So it's just like, I feel comfortable just saying what I believe and not, I never hitched my bandwagon to Trump. I never hitched my bandwagon to Turning Point or Prager. I basically got blacklisted for being honest. And, I remember exactly who said what they like, who were honest about it in 2019 and 2020 and 2021. And I could count the list of people on my hands. I don't know a single person that gave Vivek a good interview. So it's like, who knows what people are doing out there, but my job is not to just coattail ride anyone. It's just like do my own thing, because my discernment and my ability to not be a follower has worked heavily in my advantage. Maybe not financially, maybe not connection wise in the industry, maybe not popularity wise, but it has worked ethically and morally, I think. And in return, I've been blessed with a big audience and a a good sized platform. There's ways to make it bigger, and also there's ways to make it bigger without doing things I don't want to do. There's just like, work ethic, quality, consistency. Someone said Candace is doing both family and career. It's very impressive that she can do a show every day and has a family. It's a lot of work and a lot of pressure. Like, Candace is doing so many things. I mean, she had the Macron thing. Now she's got the Turning Point thing, and she's a mother, and she's talking every day. Like, to me, it's an immense amount of pressure. Like, I get stressed out when like something is like a little off in my life that I have to deal with outside of like my videos. I can't imagine having like 5 things like that. I couldn't do it. I wouldn't want to do it. I couldn't do it. I couldn't. I guess at a certain point, you just got to get used to it and be like, F it, but I definitely can't imagine how much like, unless you just got to just ignore it and just keep moving. I don't know. Someone says she's not doing it alone. Well, I'm sure she has like lawyers and stuff at this point, so it probably helps to have a team and lawyers, but she's homeschooling too. I think that's good. She's done a lot. I mean, like even before all this stuff, she was always telling the truth about vaccines. I remember that in 2019, there was a vaccine mandate being pushed in New Jersey. No one was talking about it. I talked about it. Dr. Shiva talked about it. RFK obviously talked about it. Candace Owens talked about it. I don't remember anybody else talking about it. I'm sure there were others. I'm not trying to say, but like, this is the thing. I have a tweet from 2019 that goes viral all the time because it looks prophetic. I said, vaccine mandates are coming around the corner. Like, I said it a year before the pandemic. It's because they were literally doing it in America and everyone ignored it. And that's the point I always try to make. If you ignore the speech laws that they're passing into America, when they enforce them, now you're shocked, but you missed it for 5. Like, it's better to address this stuff before it happens. So like, I knew they were there was a vaccine mandate coming around the corner. I tweeted that in 2019, early 2019. I could find the tweet for you, but it's pretty wild. But it's because they were doing it and just most people ignored it. So Candace was really early on that. And even when she was at Daily Wire, I always appreciated the fact that like no one at Daily Wire would talk about that stuff, but she always talked about it. And I'm pretty sure she never caved on any of the mandate stuff. I'm almost positive. Someone said, I don't trust any of them. They've all become very wealthy. I don't know who you're talking about, but this is, to me, this is my rule of thumb. And I want to be clear about it because I believe it for myself too. If you watch my news reports and my videos, and especially when I'm really taking the time, like on Instagram or like my reports, I don't want you to just trust what I'm saying. People that say I have intel, usually they're lying or they're just trying to be extra credible in order to like control you. So you look at them like they're a god. The reality is it's not 2003. You don't need to like guess about a YouTube conspiracy. We have all the information. We have all the facts. We have all the evidence. So I don't want people to trust what I'm saying just because I'm saying it. I always show people why I think that. I'm not just saying, oh, regime change in Venezuela is not about drug boats. It's been a plan for decades. Believe me, because I have intel. I have the proof. Watch this 6-minute video. I'll show you the 50 things that lead me to this decision. And if you watch the 50 things that lead me to this decision, most intelligent people will end up in the same spot because I'm not just talking out of my ass. So you shouldn't trust podcasters or influencers. In my opinion, I don't trust people who say stuff. I trust people who show me. When it comes to the text messages that came out that Charlie was like, hey, I'm switching my stand, whatever, Candace reported it. Then Turning Point had to say that they were accurate texts. now this becomes reality. You know what I'm saying? I mean, obviously you could still be suspicious of that if you want, but I'm just saying, like, it goes from someone saying something to someone showing something, and even people that disagree with her having to be like, yeah, no, those are real. That's interesting to me, right? I'm not saying other stuff isn't, but like, I like the proof. I like evidence. I like knowing factually and having, like, I don't just like hypotheticals. So regardless of who you listen to, you should look for evidence and trust yourself to make a decision based off of not what people say, but what they show you. It's like with Trump, people trust the Trump administration because now they trust the government because now Trump is the government. So they're like, we know it's a drug boat. If Biden said it's a drug boat, would you believe it? Probably not. But if Pete Hegseth says it, you do. And I'm not saying none of them are drug boats, but they're not blowing up drug boats to stop fentanyl. No fentanyl is coming from Venezuela. They're doing it because Iran, Russia, China, oil. It's part of the big war that they've broken out. And Ukraine has everything to do with Russia, has everything to do with Syria. They were able to plant the Al-Qaeda guy in Syria or majestically just have him take over Syria because they weakened Russia through Ukraine, and then Russia didn't have the resources in Syria. It's all these wars are connected. You listen to Marco Rubio, he's not talking about an election machine in Venezuela or a freaking drug boat. He's talking about Hezbollah, who's a terrorist group out of Lebanon, and somebody that Israel is always fighting, and America fights with Israel. So it's like, that's what Venezuela is about. You don't have to lie about it. It's about the war. It's part of the big war that's going on. It's the reality of the situation. It's like, but people, the reason I brought all that up, people trust Trump, so they just believe things with no evidence. Rand Paul says, I want to see evidence. And they go, shut up, you're supporting narco-terrorists. It's the same as, shut up, you're supporting terrorists. Shut up, let us invade Syria. Shut up, Assad's a butcher. Shut up, Gaddafi doesn't want a central bank. I mean, he's a terrorist. It's the same thing. And podcasters are no different. And I'm not acting like I'm so special, but I think the reason I've gotten so popular is because I don't just sit here and tell people what I think. I don't think that my beliefs about stuff really matter unless they're based off of evidence. That's when it gets interesting. Oh, Anomaly's not just talking out his ass. Anomaly is showing us with a 99% accuracy rating that's happening based off of like irrefutable evidence. So that's my personal opinion. And I know some people would disagree. I don't listen to X22 report has secret intel. No, he doesn't. I don't believe that. You know what I'm saying? I think that guy's a con artist, but it's like, oh, well, he told me this based on this and that. Well, trust the government. Trust Trump's got government. Dude, it's the guy. The FBI made a Twitter account, and the first people that they countered on their new Twitter account was Thomas Massie and Tucker Carlson. That's like, so, okay, you got government info on a government that wants to counter Tucker Carlson and Thomas Massie, not Mark Levin and all these other people. Okay, who cares? So I use this standard with everybody. It's nothing personal, it's nothing personal to anybody. I believe proof. I believe evidence. I believe someone who could paint the picture and show me enough proof that makes me believe it, not hypotheticals and speculations. That doesn't do it for me personally. $500 fine said, you're all con artists, bro. Tell the truth. I'm not a con artist, but if you want to believe other people are, I don't fully disagree with you. I don't think everyone's a con artist, but in politics, I think most politicians are. I think a large portion of Republican podcasters are not really doing a good job, and some are, but if you want to believe everyone's a con artist, that's on you. But all I ask is that you trust your own mind. I'm not asking you to believe every opinion I have. I'm asking you to trust reality. Make someone show you reality and make sure you can verify it based off of your intelligence that it makes sense. I'm not asking you to trust everybody or believe everybody, because at the end of the day, once again, even though I know myself, I get why people are suspicious. We've been lied to by both parties. We've been lied to by Trump. We've been lied to by Democrats. A lot of podcasters are clearly doing weird stuff that doesn't really add up. So I get what you're saying. I'm not like, if you want to watch me for 3 hours and think I'm a con artist, I just think that's kind of weird. But I think every day and all the time I'm showing people why I'm a great news analyst and a great journalist. If you go to my Instagram, I think my journalism is like very good, and I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I spent a lot of time on it. Like if you watch my last 10 journalistic pieces, I think I'm doing a phenomenal job of journalism, and I'm not trying to do too much or, like it's very helpful to the country considering no one else does it. If you don't want to like me or trust me, I don't really care, but my work speaks for itself. But I just don't get why you'd watch it then. I get why you're skeptical, but I don't understand why you'd watch it. Someone said Anomaly's a regular guy, 500 retard. I don't know what that means, but thank you, I guess. A 500 IQ retard? Not 500 what? I don't know what that means, but thank you for calling me a retard. Appreciate it. Someone said I was the only Anomaly hater here, but welcome. I mean, what do you think I'm wrong about or lying about? If I was sitting here telling you to like trust every podcast and believe people, then I would get it. But I don't even trust podcasts. So I don't know like what point you're trying to prove. Like I don't listen to people and just like be like, yeah, that I trust everything they're telling me. I want you to show me things and say things that make sense. Not me. I don't need to. I'm not looking for a leader. I'm not looking like if someone teaches me something new, I want it to be because it's true and new, not because I'm looking for something, Invest in yourself and learn to lift yourself up in this life. No one else will. Well, thank you, Jojo. That's a nice message. Someone said, I think you're cool, but I'd never be friends with you because you're a bigot. It's whatever. I mean, I appreciate you thinking I'm cool though, but I mean, the word bigot basically just means like you're a bad person, I'm a better person. Why? Because I talk about demographics and you don't want to, and the reality of like race and countries. If you took everybody in Chile and replaced them with Indians, and then you replaced everyone in India with Japan, and then you replaced everybody in Japan with people from Congo, are they all going to be exactly just as great because the architecture of the Japanese is still there and they're going to like, no, the country is going to change. You could say it's going to change for the better, but if something could change for the better, it could also change for the worse. That's just the truth. Like not acknowledging the reality of humanity doesn't make you not a bigot. It just makes you like a lot. I don't know. It's just dumb. There's a lot of people that don't think about these things. Like even a lot of like truthers, they don't think about these things. I do. They don't want to talk about these things. I do. I think I'm very well-rounded. I think I'm somebody that could go on a podcast and talk about 50 different topics and not sound like an idiot and sound intelligent and know what I'm talking about. Other people, they're like one-trick ponies. They have one or two things they talk about and they think they're like a genius because of it. I think I could talk about a lot of different things. But it's whatever. What's happening in Sweden is terrifying. Dude, I've heard that the demographics are shifting drastically, and I'm not Swedish, so you can't call me a Swedish racist, but you can if you want to, but I'm not. I want to go to Sweden, and I want it to look Swedish. I want it to be a bunch of blonde chicks, not like a bunch of people from other countries. I'm not saying other people can't live there, but if the demographics shift like 50%, that sucks. That's not good for Sweden. Sorry. That's Sweden is a great place. They have really cool people. I don't want them to get outbred and completely replaced by like another group of people. I don't think that's going to make Sweden better. It's not racism. That's just a reality. Someone said people used to listen to your perspective from both sides. Now they just want to insult like a little kid. I don't take it that seriously anymore because, when I first started, I think like views and likes, like I thought about that stuff more. I'm desensitized to it now. I have millions of followers, millions. I have billions of views. I put up a video on Instagram. It gets hundreds of I'm over it. You know what I'm saying? I'm grateful. I'm appreciative. I don't want to have no audience, but I'm not chasing a number on a social media. Like if it reaches 1 million people, if it reaches 1 billion, if it reaches 100, it is what it is. I'm just focused on doing great work and doing what I think is right. So, whether people listen to it or not, I don't know. I personally think that I have a huge influence in conservative media because whether people admit it or not, they've listened to me for years. I've changed a lot of their opinions and they know that I'm right. So it's like, I say it, it gets a lot of views on Twitter and Facebook, and it has a huge influence. I've definitely, I do my thing, whether people want to credit me or not, it doesn't really matter to me. So if people want to listen now, That's fine. If they don't, I don't care. Will they understand in 3 years? Will they apologize? Will they say I was wrong? You were right? We'll find out, but I'm way more patient than I used to be. I used to not be patient because I wanted everyone to like agree with me right now. But now I realize the reality of the situation, and it's like freaking yourself out over this stuff. It doesn't matter. All you can do is the best you can do. And then you got to be grateful for the results and keep it moving. Like I really don't stress about any of this stuff at all anymore. As long as people are semi cordial, if you don't trust me and you think this or you think that or you don't like me, the fact that you're watching and you don't like me or trust me is amazing to me. And I'm grateful. And I think that's because deep down inside, I'm not telling you to trust podcasters. I'm not telling you to trust politicians. I don't trust politicians or podcasters. So why would I want you to? So it's like, as long as you're thinking critically and you hear out something that I say and consider it, that's really the goal. I'm not trying to start a movement or a political party. I'm just trying to do my job. Appreciate y'all. I'm going to cut it off. I don't want this to go over 3 hours. God bless you. Dreamrare.com. Check these out real quick. 10% off USA Made is the code, all caps. Get one before Christmas.